Hello, 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 hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good night, good day, wherever you are in the world. Hello, I'm Ursa Brian. We've got some Civ 7 news today, haven't we? Which is all very exciting. Hello, 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 hello. Can you all hear? Can you all see? Everything looks like it's all coming up good. My end, huzzahs in the chat. That's normally a good sign. It normally means either you're all collectively in a delusion together that you can all see me. The chances of that being very unlikely. Or it's working. Hello, everyone. Yes. Oh, there's already some names I recognize here. Sweeney Mark, Zoeth. Who else can I see? Santa, Gumball, Nathan. Some people that are often on stream. Hello, everyone. What day is it today? It's Thursday, isn't it? How's everyone's day going? I lose track. It's the problem about working in a sort of more self-employed way, is that you lose a little bit of track of when the weekends are, because I kind of end up working all the time. So bank holidays confuse me as well. The UK bank holidays. People would just be off and it'll be like, oh, what are you doing for the bank holiday? And I'll look around and go, what bank holiday? I'm playing Civ. That's what I do every day. Finally caught a live stream. Huzzah indeed. Huzzah to you. Hello, D-Mike. How's it all going? This is all very exciting today. Some proper Civ 7 news, eh? I think we've got 57 minutes before the live stream. I don't know anything about what they're going to be putting on apart from what we have already spoken about. I obviously did the big video, the 2-hour special of everything that I saw when I was in Baltimore. And I've done a couple of live streams since then, but really, I'm kind of now on the same footing as everyone else. So this will be good for me. This will be exciting. New information, new reveals, new gameplay. Same thing happens when you're on sick leave. Oh no, I'm so sorry, Robert. I apologize. I hope you feel good soon. Don't you burn out, Ursa. It's all good. Don't you worry. I am in a positive, fighting, happy stance. It's all good. I like to play Civilization. Makes it a lot easier than normal. I can't complain. Have I seen the new Civs? We'll talk about what we know in a second. I think there's a couple of places that we can investigate together to pull some information together. So we'll go through several bits of the website. There's some Reddit posts. There's some other announcements that I think we can explore together. I think most of the Civs that we know about at the moment I either saw or I spoke about on my stream, but there are a couple of new ones, which is cool. Thursdays are always painful. I'm still in school and I have Latin, Greek, German, French, and English in one day. That's either really good or really bad, depending on whether you're a languages person. I remember when I was in high school, I was a typical Englishman. I was not good at foreign languages. To my shame, I spoke English and no other language. Unlike a lot of Europeans who were able to keep together 2, 3, or maybe even 4 main languages fluently. I can barely speak English at the best of times. It used to be, I think, a Tuesday for me when I used to have to go in and do French and German and Latin all in the same day. Thank goodness I could give them up when I did. That was appalling. From a little known place called California. Oh my lord, what is California? I haven't even heard of it before. It had better be good. And in the West. Baked in sunshine. Where's everyone streaming in from today? Go on, let's do this. This always makes me smile. Where's everyone streaming in from today? California I've seen. I recognize a few of you as well. So I'm intrigued to see where you're all from. A quick look at this. Oh, I left the latency on normal, which means there's a slight delay in chat here. Okay, that's okay. That's fine. What have we got? Utah, Dutch, Warrington, Poland, Cape Town, Germany, Switzerland, Milan, Portland, the land of stroopwafels. I'm at Firaxis headquarters, says Ian. Oh, an insider. Love it. Oregon, Dallas, Tennessee, Boston, Bangladesh, Berlin, Germany, England, Washington, Poland, New York, Londonium, Finland, Istanbul, Alpha Centauri. There's always one. There's always one alien in chat. I'm glad to see Faroe Islands, Lancaster. Oh, hi, Clint. Hello, I see you there. Hello. Minnesota, Hutchinson, Wisconsin. Is Wisconsin different from Wisconsin? I'm not a huge swat about American geography. Missouri, Warsaw, Greece, Oregon, Mexico, Panama. Oh my lord, the depths of hell. There we go. That is truly the place to be watching civilization. Uranus. Alright, you're all getting silly now. Yeah, this is an exciting day. This is a very exciting day. We know quite a bit about Civ 7, but nowhere near as much as we should about the mid and late game. That's the really intriguing thing. Some of the gameplay decisions are slowly revealing themselves. I would go as far as to say, I would say a good chunk of the, maybe negativity is the wrong word, but a lot of the worry about some of the choices being made in Civ, that seems to be fading away slowly. There's a lot of positivity that I'm seeing in the community and in chat, and certainly when I look at the reception to my own silly drawings, which is one of the main ways I get to feedback with what the mood of the Reddit landscape and my YouTube chat is. Normally I put a picture on something that's a point of change and I can have a look and see what people think of it. It's a very good way of catching up, really. You're all still going. Look at all this. Calgary, Texas, Wisconsin. It's more optimistic. It's more Midwestern. I like that. Quebec, Oklahoma, Norway. That's all wonderful. I guess. So we got 50 minutes or so, right? Until the live stream comes up. So I've got a tab open. I'm ready to kind of put that up. And we're going to watch this together. One thing I noticed about the developer live stream that's happening in just over 50 minutes time from now is, I think because it's such a big publication, they are not allowing comments on stream. And that got me thinking, well, we better have a place that people can comment and talk along whilst we're doing this. So hence my little reaction. Plus you can hear me react to the stuff alongside the information that they're revealing. I can read your chat. Probably won't speak over it too much. I'll just chip in here and there and we can talk about it afterwards and debrief and go back through it. Very excited for Civ 7. I have trust in the Thraxis dev team and the info they've been dropping has eased my worries. I like that trust in the dev team. I came away from Baltimore with a lot of trust in the dev team. They were really passionate, like really passionate. That was the thing that really stuck with me, how into the process they were on a excitable level. Like, you know, when someone does something and knows a lot about something, that's one thing. But they were all kind of bouncing out of their seats in excitement to see what we thought about it. Every time you spoke to a dev, they were literally like hopping and looking around corners and whispering to each other, and they really, really wanted to see what we were going to say about it all. And that gave me a really good sense of where the level of excitement on this project was and how much effort and love was being poured into it. And I think one of the fun things about dropping information gradually like the way they're doing is you don't see the whole picture. You deliberately don't see the whole picture. You just get to see bits and pieces. So as time goes on, we start to get more and more of the collective experience. All the pieces, the jigsaw comes together and you get to see it a little bit more in bigger picture. Is today Egypt/Antiquity gameplay? I know that we are watching Antiquity gameplay today. I actually don't know what the Civ that is going to be playing is. Do people know that in chat? Has that been released? Is that information that's publicly out there? I don't know. That is a good question. All I know is that the stream is called... Just show you this quickly. It's called Antiquity Age Developer Livestream. I'm reading the text. I don't see anything mentioning what or how they're going to be playing. Unless I missed something. I might be missing something. But I think it's going to be a little bit of a watch and find out situation. Hope Greece is revealed today. I don't know if Greece is going to be revealed today. Maybe it will. We'll have to keep an eye out in the top right-hand corner. So, like in a lot of Civ games, when I played Civ 7 in the top... Yep, this direction. Top right-hand corner, they had all of the diplomatic icons for everyone you've met. So we'll have to keep an eye out for the other civs in the game. Let me tell you now, nothing on this stream is going to be revealed accidentally. As far as I know, every time Reddit gets hold of information and goes, something's been leaked, every time the dev team have deliberately leaked it themselves. Without fail. And there's only one time that I know of that the dev team didn't mean to release information, and that, I believe, was with Civ 6, the infamous Civipedia case, where they were playing on a live stream, and one of them asked another dev a question, so they opened up the Civipedia to go and have a look on stream, and then the Civipedia spoiled a lot of information that was going to be released over the next few weeks. That, I think, was a genuine case, but a lot of the other information... The civs we see in the gameplay today, the things they talk about, it's all going to be very carefully choreographed, scripted, controlled. This is going to be a very interesting experience. So they won't open the Civilopedia. Trust me, they now tell stories to each other. When I went, we had the dinner after the Civ 7 gameplay. So we were sat with the devs and eating dinner in the hotel in Baltimore. It literally was called the Civipedia rule. The devs talk about it with fear in their eyes. The day that the Civipedia drop accidentally. They joke about it still to this day. I know. Oh, hi, White Nerdy. Hello, how you doing? Good to see you here. Are you streaming today? Are you going to be watching live, or are you just tagging on as a member of the audience? What are you up to today? It's all very exciting. I am excited. I'm excited too. It's Antiquity, but we are hoping for a first look at transition from one age to another. So we might see the transition to exploration, but there won't be exploration gameplay. That's my understanding as well. I think we're only going to be seeing age 1, but we will probably see the transition to age 2. Just seeing that is going to give us a huge amount of information. A colossal amount of information to pin together what we know, what we fear, what we hope for, our fears and hopes and dreams with that second iteration of Civ. A lot of it's going to make a lot more sense given the clues we're going to see today. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I suspect they will have a bunch of save points and they will jump between them to make sure they cover all points. That's what I'm expecting. We shall see. I don't think they're going to be showing all Antiquity Age Civs, no. We're not going to see everything today. We're going to see a carefully curated drop of information. We might see more than we've seen before, but I don't think we're going to be seeing everything. We shall see. No plans to stream on the channel today? Oh, well, there you go. You get to rest and chill. You get to enjoy it, like the members of the audience. Oh, hi, Borderline. Hello. There you go. One of the devs in chat. Good to see you. Oh, this must be Christmas. Repeated Christmas for the development team. Every time there's a drop, every time the community gets excited, we all get together at our keyboards and we go, ooh, what are we going to be unwrapping today? Stuff that you've been working on for years. Years and years and years. And you get to see us unwrap and reveal and react, and that glint in our eyes as we come down the stairs in the morning and see what you've released. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm really intrigued just to see how much of this is very carefully scripted, what we're going to be seeing today. I think we're going to have a lot of new information, but I don't think this is going to be a complete reveal on the Antiquity Age. They want to slow drip it. Yeah, exactly right. White and Nerdy's got this bang on. Absolutely bang on. This is a carefully curated reveal. Do we know how the map enlarged between ages work? No, we don't. We have second and third hand information and references to the enlarging of the map. I hope today will give us our first concrete clues and hints about what we could expect to see from that transition. If we see antiquity to exploration, and we see an evidence of that process, of the map expanding, of something changing, that will give us a lot of information as to how this process is going to work. So today I'm hoping for the first time we will see primary information, not tertiary information, not something that is being spoken about by a dev. This is going to be hopefully something we see with our eyes for the first time, I hope. Fingers crossed. We may not. Maybe we'll be left guessing. Maybe exploration area will be something we learn about next time out. Who knows? I am wearing a yellow shirt. Yeah. I'm actually... Oh no, this is going to be quite awkward. So people ask, why are my bad drawings? Why did I draw myself in my drawings with a yellow shirt and blue trousers? And the reality of it is that that's what I was wearing at the time. I've got my blue trousers on today. I think this is literally... Yeah, I think this probably would have been, if not the thing I was wearing when I did that first drawing, that it would be very similar to the thing I was wearing. I have a lot of yellow shirts. It's the best color. It's my favorite color. I'm still trying to convince Sleepy that we should paint the entire house yellow. We will see how that argument goes. Oh, 300 viewers, 100 likes. Come on, Bez. You know what? You know who's really intrigued about how many likes this stream has? That's Crustus the Enraged. Crustus is held back only by a thin, sorcerous veil created by likes on this stream. Only he can hit this world without likes holding him back in some sort of pagan-esque ritual. No, thank you. Thank you for likes on the stream. That's very kind. I am literally the doodle. Yeah, it's true. I am. That is me. That's me. I drew myself in the drawings. People think, you know, it's some character. No, it's me. Ursa is me in the drawings. 8 Beach seemed to imply at PAX West that modding would be supported. Did you catch that? / what's your take? I'm cool with transitioning between civs at age end, but I want options for one civ. 2. Matt, you are probably not going to have options for one civ. I can tell you now that that is unlikely to be within the game itself. It seems a pretty core gameplay foundation that there is going to be a change of civ from one to the other. It seems like, and we'll talk about this in a second actually, because we're going to go through some of the civs that have been released in the information that we know thus far. It seems like there is now a push towards having multiple versions of the same civ. So larger civs that have had more of a lasting impact throughout multiple ages of history. We might see various forms of them. India and Japan, I'm thinking, are 2 examples that we know about a little bit. There are other examples that we can probably pick up from that. I don't think we're going to just be able to have one option that you run with the whole way. Mods... Yes, I got the same impression. I got the impression that mods in some form will be available. Hopefully we'll find out more information about that in the coming months. I suspect we don't know about modding, because I expect that's going to be something that they do towards the end of the publishing, finalizing process of getting the game wrapped up. So I imagine it's not their biggest priority right now, but I suspect we will see a lot of that. And it might be that some mods tweak the aesthetics of the game so that the names of the civs and the names of the buildings and whatever retain the same from one age to another. So if people really don't like that change, you'll be able to roll it back. But I can almost guarantee within the game itself, there is unlikely to be one civ that just goes throughout the entire game. We've moved past that point now. It's too baked into the actual gameplay, I would say. That's what I'm thinking, anyway. Can't wait for the American civ from antiquity to modern era. Everyone knows that John America established the country 50,000 years ago and remained an unbroken leader since. It's true. Oh, thank you very much, Jacob. Oh, the donation is incredibly sweet. I appreciate it. These funds will be used to arm myself with pitchforks in case Crustus does appear through a fracturing of likes on this stream. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. Right, should we... I'll kind of lead this a little bit. And we'll have a look at some information that we know about we can speak about. Because I think this kind of leads a little bit into some of the conversations we're having, doesn't it? Haven't we seen India in every age, just different versions of India? This is exactly what I'm talking about. And I think this is actually a little bit of a change that we have seen maybe in the way that the game is being sold. We have 5 Antiquity Age civs that have been confirmed on the website. So this is the Civilization website itself at the moment. And we have 1 Exploration Age civ. The main thing being because this Shwani civ is a DLC or early access civ. So they needed to give some information about the exploration. As you can see, more coming soon. I don't... Maurya? Not sure about the pronunciation on that just yet. I'm sure someone will tell me in chat very soon. This is a good example. This is a good example of, I think, what is a slight change in how the devs have responded to some of the discussion and some of the feedback from the community. Because I know a lot of people, still to this day, are a little bit 50-50 or maybe even leaning negatively towards the idea of having changing civilizations. This is a very good example of, I think, how they are sort of changing. Maurya. Is that how it is? Maurya? All right, cool. I'll take that for now. Maurya. Notice this at the top. You see this at the top? This is a very subtle distinction, but a very important one. Hang on, let me just put the chat overlay back on. For now, you're not getting in the way of any information at the moment. This is a really subtle distinction here, because when I played the game, and when I was given a lot of information about the game, and a lot of the graphics packs that I saw, they were called Maurya. And that was it. Done. Maurya. Now they are called Maurya India. So they've added India as a second word to the nation. Now, in terms of civilization and how it plays, is that thematically any different? No. Most of the information that I see in terms of how this civ actually works is exactly as I saw when I played the game in Baltimore. But they have added India on to the end. Now, this implies that there will be civilizations, and we know of a few already. India is a good example of one, Japan is another, and I think China is probably going to be one of them as well. This gives us the indication that a lot of civilizations will have alternate forms in different ages that we will be able to play. And the dev team felt the need to make that distinction a little bit clearer than it was before. Now, it might be that some civilizations do not have this age separation. Some are just a once and gone, like we might see that the Mayans, for instance, are not going to appear in any form past the exploration age. But some will. And this could be a good example of the fact that there's going to be exploration and modern and/or versions of India. It's probably for the people who don't know that the Mauryan Empire was located in the area that we consider India today. Possibly for clarification, but I just think it's interesting that that was added after a lot of the feedback from the community about civ switching. Now, I could be entirely wrong. That's just a sort of random take of mine. But I think probably there will be quite a few civilizations that have multiple forms in different ages. Especially some of the more important or long-lived empires that we've seen in the world. We shall see. Absolutely, this is how you do civ that stands the test of time in an evolving Civ 7 way. Yeah, exactly. It's the same civ, but different rulers, different feudal systems, different government systems. The problem is there's a huge amount of flexibility in Civ. It's not supposed to be a historical simulator, and it never has been. That was a quote, I think, from one of the devs recently. It is not a historical simulator. It just happens to be a game with all of the tools of history that you can then mess around with. You know, you've got the real history Lego set, and then you're just unleashed to do whatever you want with it. I just think this is a really interesting way of putting it. Definitely. Maybe they decided to add India into it. Since the idea of India exists for a long time, yet the nations is different in all ages. Yeah, but it's just that second tag, isn't it? Because they could have just kept it with Maurya or Maurya. You know what I mean? Just left it that. Just not put India in. And we would have known, if you'd looked at the history, this was an Indian civilization. I think this is a bit of appeasement. I think this is a bit of diplomacy from the dev team. They've listened to the feedback from the unhappy contingency, and they've gone, how can we change this a little bit without actually fundamentally changing the game, which at this point, I hate to tell you, is probably fixed, because there's a lot of development that's already gone into it, but is now set in stone. If you want a game in February, that's not getting changed. We are way past that point now. This is a way of changing that just a little bit, to be more acceptant of people who want that more continuous experience, I think. Maybe day's going well, I'm at work. Shishus, hello to you. Get back to work. Watching you. Crustus is watching you. Ah, dear. I'm thinking about two civs are tied to geographic areas instead of ancestry. The problem is there's no fixed way of doing this, because different parts of the world are linked differently in terms of how we define civilization, right? Sometimes it's geography, sometimes it's racial, sometimes it's technology based, sometimes it's a royal family. It changes. So it's going to be a bit all over the place. Anyway, let me have a look at... This is Maurya. So this is an interesting one, because we can see some of the abilities that this civ has and how that works into information that we've seen in Civ before. So there is no faith resource in Civ 7. I think we've spoken about this before. Faith as a resource does not exist. At least not in the Antiquity Age. No faith. So how do you get a pantheon? You unlock mysticism. Where's mysticism? It's on the civic tree. So as long as you get enough culture, you unlock mysticism, you get yourself a pantheon. So there's no working that dice tile at the beginning of the game to get that +1 faith to get a pantheon, right? It's all about culture in this game. So, mysticism gives you a pantheon. Maurya? Ugh, it's going to take ages to get this in my head. Gets a second pantheon. Now, that's really cool. That's really cool. Most of the pantheons in the game were all working on a building called an altar, which you build in a city. It's effectively a shrine, but it doesn't need a holy site. You just build it in a building, and that becomes a district on the map, and you get a pantheon. And if you haven't got an altar in your city, your pantheon does nothing for you. So a lot of them were things like get an extra bit of food from this improvement in any city with an altar, or get some culture from something in any city with an altar. So there's going to be a lot of building altars with this civilization, but a second pantheon is really quite interesting, because it really shoves you up that cultural tree. And we're going to see a lot of, I think, start bias with India at the beginning of the game, because these pantheons were very map dependent. Very map dependent, in the same way as we've seen in Civ 5 and Civ 6. It's like, if you've got this resource, this pantheon will do something for you. Having two shots of that is interesting. Really interesting. Maurya, everyone is going different already. You see, this is the fun I have as a streamer, right? People... We will evolve the wrong way together. So, that is the Civ ability. So far, so simple. A Civ just has one ability, but then it gets more complicated, because a Civ has its own tree. And seemingly, some trees look different to others. This tree is interesting. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 different civics. But if I look at other trees, like Rome, for instance, Rome was the one I played when I played it. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, but tier 1, tier 2, tier 1, tier 2. So the Roman tree actually looks a bit more fleshed out. They're not all equal. I think I saw one earlier. Egypt. Yeah, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Only 3 things in this tree. So not every civ will be equal in terms of how big its civic tree is. I don't know if that's because if it has a smaller tree, it'll have bigger effects, or whether or not if you've got a bigger tree, it's like tiny effects, or maybe some civs are just more focused to the civic tree than the improvements. We'll see how that balance goes. But this is the unique civic tree, so these are the abilities that only India can get. The civic tree unlocks the unique infrastructure. It also does things like increasing settlement limit. Is another interesting thing. Infantry and cavalry units gain increased combat strength when adjacent to each other, so that's effectively flanking. Healing for units if they are adjacent to your unique cavalry unit. Interesting stuff. What we've spoken about before is that unique units in Civilization 7 last all age. They will relevant all age. So once, for instance, you unlock the unique military unit, the Purab Hetera, that's a mouthful. Once you unlock the military unit, that will be relevant for the entire age of antiquity. All of these civics give them more abilities, and you'll actually see it sometimes you get cards that make them even better as well. Again, one of the good examples that I saw when I was playing, when I played Rome, was Legion. Legion were very powerful. They hit like absolute trucks. They were buses. They were hugely powerful, absolutely massively powerful. Gains increased combat strength every Roman tradition in the government. So the more policy cards I put through that were Roman specific, the stronger legions got. And all of these, tradition, 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 tradition. There were quite a few unique Roman traditions. So if I put all 4 of these in the government, legions were like miniature tanks. They were so powerful, and they right until the end of the age were still incredibly useful. So I think we're going to see a lot of that sort of synergy. Rome definitely is all about the unique unit. India has a combination. So it was a unique cavalry unit that was better at attacking forts, so sort of more of an assault troop, and then a unique settler unit that added happiness on city halls. There's a lot more unique stuff for every civ. We're going to see a lot more diversity from civ to civ. And remember, all of this, in Civ 5, what did you get? 1 building, 1 unit, and 1 description on the ability. This is a lot more fleshed out than it was before. So it's interesting. Well, that ability is genius. India is home to 3 different indigenous religions and over 1,000 local gods. Yeah, and its religious acceptance is definitely something. When we have a look at this, we can see there's a lot of stuff that adds happiness on science and military buildings and then turns that happiness into science and gold. So it's all about staying happy. But the unique building, probably confusing this with another thing. Unique quarter increases happiness. A quarter is just what you get. Each tile can have up to 2 buildings. So there's 2 buildings. And if you put both of them, both of the unique buildings in the same district, it becomes a unique quarter. So you want to stack them together. Quite simple. I think India is all going to be about getting those pantheons, using those pantheons to give you happiness, and then going for a really happy build that gives you extra stuff. So they're probably going to be quite tall, I would suspect. The impression I got was settling more towns and cities and pushing over your settlement cap got you more yields, but it massively decreased the happiness you got. So I think this is going to be probably a slightly taller, a slightly more populous, less settled wide civ. Potentially. We'll see how it goes. Oh, hey, Pravis. Hello. Hello, hello. Good to see you here. You excited about the new gameplay reveal? Be interesting to see what we see that is new compared to what we saw in Baltimore, eh? It'll be good. The depth of the civ choices is staggering. It is. Yeah, there's a lot more complexity. So this is a little bit about India. The one I haven't seen, and I was looking at earlier today, was the Mayans. So this is more information. We've seen a lot of this from screenshots in the game. I built this unique wonder in my roaming game. This is, what was it called? The Temple of Pyramids of something. Pyramids of the Sun? What was it called? What was it? Associated Wonder. Oh, here we go. Sorry, it's the Mundo Perdido. Perdido. I'm going to have to do so much pronunciation practice. This is going to be the thing that I am really going for when I start to play Civ 7. We're going to try and knuckle on this down. I didn't know there was another reveal until 2 minutes ago. Well, there you go. Look, the streams are worth it. Eh? We've got to wait 23 minutes, I think. 23 minutes. Oh, look, the stream started soon. There you go. So it's already started. That's cool. Yeah, just Maya. No country tag. Isn't that interesting? I think that addition of India is really deliberate. I think that was incredibly deliberate, and I think that was very much in response to a lot of the conversations that people had, a lot of the feedback about being forced to change civilization between ages. I don't think that that was a coincidence at all. But what do the Mayans do? Mayans are quite interesting. In Civ 5 and Civ 6, we saw them leaning on great people and science. I don't believe we are very different this time. So, there is a unique building that you can put down that gives culture adjacency for other quarters. So basically, the more urban a city is, the more culture you get. There's also a bunch of stuff that is all about adjacency with vegetated tiles. Now, as far as I'm aware, there are two main types of vegetated tiles. We've got woods or forests as we know them, and we have rainforest, which I believe in this is called like tropical. What was it called again? Something like that. A rainforest tile, effectively. Let's see if it says. It wasn't jungle. There's another phrase for it. I don't remember. Vegetated and tropical. Tropical. I was right. I should have trusted myself. Should have backed myself. Yep. So the Mayans are all about starting in the trees of some variety, and a lot of stuff stacks up like that.
New donation from Turmeric 5. Thanks, Ursa.
Thank you very much for the coffee donation, Turmeric. That's very kind of you. Thanks, Ursa. Thank you. Thank you. That's incredible. I'm glad that you've made it to stream. It's really good to see you. So, there's a lot of stuff that is all about the adjacency of trees, effectively. So, we can see there's a unique quarter. Every time you research a technology, the city gains production equal to a small percentage of its cost. So, it's all about going through the tech tree as quick as you can. There's a unique unit that can see through vegetation and move through it easily. And a unique civilian unit that can create traps in vegetated tiles that attack and block units, which is quite interesting as well. There's a lot of fun stuff there. We've got the extra civics as well. The altar, so that's the altar building I was telling you with pantheons. You've got to build an altar in a city in order to get your pantheon bonus. The altar gains science for adjacent vegetated tiles. There you go. Another adjacency. Increased science on vegetated tiles in cities. Stay in the trees. Your unique unit gains stealth in vegetated tiles, and you gain poison against wounded units. That's cool. That's very cool. And then after completing a technology, you gain culture equal to your tech's cost. So at that point, we're starting to see synergy here. If you complete a tech, you get production, and, yeah, down here, and you also get culture. So completing techs is really interesting. Really benefit. So Mayans really benefit from not chopping woods or rainforest. This is an important Civ 7 mechanism. You cannot chop woods and rainforests. You can't do it. There is no chopping of features in that way. There are no builders. There are no workers. If you put a district or an improvement down on tropical tiles or vegetated tiles generally, they stay. They stay underneath. So the district physically is around the woods. The woods don't go anywhere. You can't chop. So the Mayans just need trees, and you need to just settle amongst them. That's definitely the sort of the theme we're going from here. And it looks really cool. You can actually see this in action. If we look at this screenshot, do you notice how there are trees in and around quite a few of these districts? I believe a lot of these have actually been built on forested tiles. So we shall see how that impacts into the game. I don't know, maybe mines are going to be quite a interesting start for map regen, re-rolling. You're going to have to restart a lot, who knows? No builders equals no chops, that's exactly right. You got to stick with those trees. We got to hug them, we got to keep them. That's it. Oh, 18 minutes to go, very exciting. So that's the mines. So if woods are still there, can you still place traps on it? Well, I don't know. Can a Jaguar Slayer place a trap on a vegetated tile that is also a district? I don't know. That is a question that we're probably not going to find out until we actually play the game. But who knows? Increased happiness and silence on tropical tiles in this city. Yeah, there's so much synergy with the Mayans with starting around woods. Yeah. So districts and quarters don't remove tile features. No, they don't. There's no chopping anymore. You live around nature. I'll show you Rome quickly. Rome is the one I spoke about in most detail when I did my summary video, because Rome was who I played in Baltimore. Rome is all about going wide, going military, and getting cultural because of it. Actually, it's really interesting. It seems like civs have been given attributes of where the devs think you're going to be playing this. So when we looked at the Mayans, it was diplomatic and scientific. When we looked at Maurya India, militaristic and scientific. So those are both scientific civs. Rome is a cultural militaristic civ, and this is added by culture on districts in the capital and city centres and towns. So just by building urban centres, all of this was giving me culture. So I found when I was playing, the more I built, and the wider I built my city centres, I started rushing through the civic trees really quickly. Really quickly. So Rome is very cultural, and because of that, you unlock your civic tree quicker. And because you unlock your civic tree quicker, your legion get terrifying. There is a lot of synergy here. As much culture as you can, pump those legion out, and let's go rockin'. Let's go smash. That's how they work. How does conquest work with sprawling cities? Do you just have to conquer the city centre? Yeah, basically the city centre remains the tile with the health. So that's the one you're attacking. I believe other districts, a bit like in Civ 6, can influence combat. So we saw encampments in Civ 6. There were similar things you could build in Civ 7. But it is mainly the city centre. So as you can see, as you go down, we unlock our unique buildings. We unlock our unique units. And then we start to unlock things like increased production towards military units in the capital for every town. The wider you get, the more production you get for your units. Because I had a bunch of towns, because I went conquering, the Legion were pumping. They were pumping out of my capital by the end of it. It was amazing. It was really cool. The unique commander gains promotions for 3. You can see here, producing an infantry unit gives you culture. So making units gives you culture, which then makes your units more powerful. Synergy. It really was. Increased gold in the capital for every town. Grants a 3 infantry unit in new settlements that you found. Again, more units, more culture. Increased food, gold, and culture in towns for specialization. From what I could tell, Rome was all about having as many towns as you could. You didn't want to make cities. You want to keep Rome as your only major city, and you wanted as many towns as you can. There's a lot of stuff that buffs towns. A lot of it. When I made my 2nd and 3rd city, I immediately thought, maybe that wasn't the play. Maybe that wasn't what I wanted to do. So they definitely seem to be town focused. And then we've got down here, increased settlement limit, and unlocks the Colosseum. Production on quarters in the capital. Again, so quarters are now giving you culture and production for more units. We have the Forum, culture and gold for every Roman tradition in the government, which you wanted to do because that makes your legion more powerful. Synergy. Synergy. Unique building that gives you culture and happiness. And then another one that gives you gold to pay for your troops. The unique commander was cool. You could actually make a new settlement once it leveled up. So you got your commander to fight and fight and fight, and then it got to make new towns, which was quite cool. Although I didn't find that to be too useful, because I conquered up to my settlement limit anyway. So, yeah. Yep, the stream starts in 15 minutes. Don't worry. 13 minutes now. We're waiting. We're waiting. We're not going to miss it. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. And then the Colosseum. Increased happiness and quarters on the city. So it just made Rome really happy. Which is always fun. Do units in any way consume resources? Or is it like previous Civ iterations where if you have a resource, you can build the better version of the unit? Resources don't add up in numbers like we saw in Civ 6. Resources have a whole different system now. There is no distinction between luxury, bonus, and strategic resources anymore. They're just resources full stop. So horse is a resource, just like wine is a resource. I believe horses, from memory, for every copy of horse you had in your government, cavalry units you made were slightly faster, so you got a production bonus towards them, and they started with a bit more combat strength. So if you have lots and lots and lots of strategic resources, as we know them, like iron and horses and stuff, it makes your units quicker and better, but there's no resource consumption, per se. So it's probably a little bit more like how it was on Civ 6 when it started, when you just needed 2 copies of something to make a unit, or 1 copy if you had an encampment. It's not like that at all, but it's sort of more of an empire-wide resource that doesn't go away. That's the way to think about it. Hope that we can get a unique unit that needs wine, a Bacchus of some kind, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. No way this game going to be fun, sorry. I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah, it's a very negative reaction. Trust me, I played it and I had a lot of fun. When I played it in Baltimore, I came away from that feeling really annoyed that I didn't get to play more of it. I've had to really stop thinking about Civ 7 and force myself back into Civ 6. I know, woe is me, tiny violin, but it was a really fun game to play. It had a huge amount of depth, but it was very easily to run, and I loved it. I honestly think it's going to be an absolute smash hit. It might take some polishing out, but honestly, give it 12 months. We're not going to be having this conversation anymore. It's going to have taken over Civ 5 and Civ 6 in all ways. I just have that hunch. I really do. I really do. Let's just quickly have a look at the others. We've got Egypt. Production on navigable rivers. Culture, economic Civ. So it's all about gold and culture. So not about military at all. Only a small civic tree here. But it's all about food on navigable rivers, culture on navigable rivers, production towards wonders. That's where the economic and cultural comes in. You can see that minor rivers can be just walked over, so river mastery of some kind. We've also got a 3-unit... Oh no, your unit generates gold when stationed in a settlement you own. Spiff broke that. Spiffing Brit, when he was playing this, he found a way to force and turn a bunch of unique units into the same city, and he was generating tons of 3 gold, and the devs were like, that doesn't seem right. He was so disappointed. He was so disappointed. Yeah. It was really funny. Increased gold on the palace, increased settlement limit, unlocks the pyramids. This is a really interesting feature. There's an associated wonder with every civ, and the culture tree is able to unlock that wonder earlier than the tech tree does, which I think is really interesting. We'll see how that goes. Unique quarter, gold for every wonder completed in the city. Just build more wonders. Gold adjacency for desert tiles. Oh, it's desert adjacency with Egypt. Interesting. And happiness adjacency with navigable rivers. Good, good, good. Unique civilian unit that comes with random bonuses. These are kind of like great people. Oh yeah, this is it, right. So you build them once you get your unique quarter, and then it gives you random stuff like Imhotep. Here's Imhotep, by the way. Here's Imhotep. So you can use Imhotep as Egypt to rush a wonder. Or celebrations, or putting gold and culture on wonders. So they're all about wonders, really, Egypt. It's kind of a way to look at it. And then it has a very defensive military unit. It's very spammable, has no unique, no gold cost. So it's really good. Spiff, I know, he did a speed run. I know, people really did rush through the gameplay. They just wanted to end turn. I was like, I want to be taking my time here. I want to play this game out. Are wonders claimed like in Humankind, or are they still a race to finish them? They're still a race to finish them, so they still built in exactly the same way that wonders in Civ 6 are. So anyone can build them. Once it's built once, it disappears for everyone. The difference is that every Civ has an associated wonder. So pyramids for Egypt, and you unlock it earlier, and you have a production boost towards it. So Colosseum was Rome, pyramids is Egypt, and then we can see that India's was the Sanchi Stupa. The Mayans were the Mundo Perdido. So you can build it easier with your Civ, but you still have to compete for them in exactly the same way. So, yeah. 8 minutes. Oh, look, we're even counting down now. We're even counting down. Exciting. Exciting. Now, downside of no builders is no chopping wonders. Yeah, you can't chop wonders anymore. But as we've seen, that doesn't mean you can't rush wonders. Egypt, for instance, has a bunch of people that can rush wonders. And there's a bunch of stuff that you can do to speed them up. But yeah, you can't chop for production anymore. There is a good side, there's an upside to that, which is buildings are still buyable with gold. You can still purchase them with gold. So, basically you can now gold purchase districts in any city. So that's cool. That's really cool. But wonders, no, are now locked behind production. And finally, Aksum. African coast of the Red Sea. One of the 4 key powers of the ancient world. Cultural and economic, so very similar to Egypt. Increased gold on resources. We have increased resource capacity and settlements on coast or navigable rivers, so you can put more resources into them if you're near water. Better trade routes. Increased gold on quarters adjacent to the coast, so get them to sea. Altar and monument buildings gain culture adjacency. With your unique improvement, which is cool. Increased gold in cities adjacent to coast tiles. You get the swift keyword. Oh yeah, here we go. Right, so this is, you basically ignore the zone of control with your units. Increased culture and resources on or adjacent to coast tiles. So basically, Aksum is all about settling near the coast. Being naval. 5 minutes and 30 seconds. I know, it's all getting excited. It's all getting excited now, aren't we? Oh dear. So we've got unique improvement. So these don't have a building or a quarter. This is a unique improvement. It's a gold base, increased culture of every adjacent wonder or hawalt. So basically you just make more and more and more gold by putting them everywhere and getting adjacency with them. Unique trade ship with increased trade route range. So you get unkillable trade routes. A unique naval unit. And you gain, with the Great Steel, you gain gold per age when you complete a wonder in the city, including the Great Steel, must be built on a flat tile. Amazing. Amazing. The associated wonder mechanics look a bit hollow. Either the advantage is so large that you're basically guaranteed the wonder every game, or the AI advantage is so strong it doesn't matter. That doesn't sound hollow, that sounds quite nuanced. That sounds like quite the delicate balancing point. That's not hollow at all. I think if you have a game with every single civ in it, so every option for every wonder is in the game, you might find yourself in a situation where every civ gets one wonder. But I would suspect that the choices in terms of the number of wonders and the number of civs is far greater than just the one wonder per civ. So I think, especially in my gameplay demo, there was, 15 or 16 wonders? So a bunch of them seem to be untied at that moment to a civ. So I don't know. I don't think it's so rubber banded or locked as we fear. Yes, if the deity bonus is really, really high, you might find that AI is just going to build it all the time. Maybe, but to be honest, we have that problem in Civ anyway. When was the last time you booted up a game of Civ 6 Deity and you weren't in a situation where they rushed Mashi Pishu or Etmananki? Or, it's just what the AI does. They've always done it for the longest time. So I don't think that's a Civ 7 problem. I think that's just a difficulty balancing problem. But we'll see. Yeah, we were only able to play the first stage. Yeah. So, hopefully we'll see a bit of that today. Hopefully we'll see a bit of that today, eh? We shall see. We shall see. Right, I'm going to turn the text off for a bit. Sorry. You can read it on the side of the screen. You're all good. Cities going to be all-purpose cities. Are there still going to be cities that focus on one thing like science or production? Yes. There's, just like in Civ 5 and Civ 6, the bigger and taller a city is, the more population it's got, the more it'll be able to do everything. If you have multiple smaller cities, it will make sense to specialize them. And a lot of buildings and a lot of abilities are terrain focused. So you will find playing into the terrain and specializing a city does help. It's also worth pointing out as well that towns have specialisms once you get to 7 population and above. So they will start to specialize, and it was very much terrain and improvement focused as to what worked better at that point. So yes, there is specialism. I think, to be honest with you, if you're going to have a city with about 35 population in it, it's probably going to be able to do everything anyway. But that was always the problem with Civ 5, wasn't it? You just build every building. Because why would you not? Why would you not? All right, we're within a minute now. This is exciting. This is exciting. Okay, let's get ready for this. I'm going to turn off the background music. We shall see. I'm excited. We've got volume. I don't know how loud it's going to be. It might absolutely shriek into your ears when we start. You just have to tell me in the comments as we go. If it's too loud, we'll turn it down. But it's all very exciting. I don't know what we're going to be shown today. This is all new. Imagine the nerves behind the camera right now for the dev team, knowing they're going live. Imagine the nerves. Oh, I feel for them. I do feel for them. Here we go. Turn your volume all the way up. Get shocked.
Throughout our history, ordinary people have done extraordinary things. Illuminating our potential. They inspired movements, created the impossible.
This is so pretty. First time I saw this, I did think it was incredibly pretty.
People chose to change the world, chose to dream, to build, to hope. always hope. And if there's hope for one of us, there's hope for us all. Now it's your turn to reimagine civilization and build something you believe in.
Gwendolyn was such a good choice. She was such a good choice.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Firaxis live stream, our first live stream of Civilization 7. I'm Pete Murray. I'm going to be your host today, joined by Sarah Engel.
It's Pete and Sarah.
Welcome. You're our community manager here at Firaxis.
I am, and I am so excited to be here today.
And we've got awesome members of the Civilization 7 development team with us today. We have Andrew Fredrickson, the lead producer of Sid Meier's Civilization 7. We also have another Andrew, Dr. Andrew Johnson, our lead historian for Civ 7. Andrew, thanks for coming in.
200.
And joining us, the undisputed conqueror of kingdoms, the one who lays waste all before him, Carl, the Carlbarian Harrison, designer on Civ 7.
I thought Carl would be on
Awesome.
this.
Well, we've got a great
Cheeky
stream
boy.
for you guys to share today. What I'm excited to tell you is that Civilization 7 is coming out on February 11th on PC and consoles, day and date 2025. That is incredibly cool. We have a great stream to show you today. We've got leaders and civs to show you. We've got a deep dive on Antiquity, but that is not all.
We also are going to be showing you guys a sneak peek into an age transition. So moving from Antiquity Age into the Exploration Age.
Good.
And not
Good.
only that, we're going to be showing off a little bit of Ashoka and the Maurya Civ as well. We're going to be taking some time to answer some questions live from chat, so definitely ping your questions as you have them. And finally, we are super excited to bring back first looks, and the first of our first looks is Hatshepsut, so absolutely stick around for the end of the stream.
All right. Well, we've talked about the Antiquity
Keep
Age, and
an
ages
eye
are just
on the
a
stuff
huge
in the
part of what
background.
makes Civilization 7
None of
different
that
from previous
will
civilizations.
not be
So,
deliberate.
Andrew Fredrickson, for people who are maybe new to this idea of ages, what do ages bring Civilization 7?
Ages bring so much to the franchise. These are a new way to look at the gameplay, the history that opens up so many opportunities for what we can do with content and features. And we've divided the game up now into these 3 distinct ages. And with each one, there's so much to unpack. And we're going to get today to start with the Antiquity Age, the first of those. So we'll jump, I think, pretty much right into gameplay.
So hopefully we'll see a stream on each one at some
We got that
point.
up on the screen here.
Okay, straight to gameplay.
Carl,
right.
you want to tell people what we're looking at?
Yeah, so here we are at
Oh.
the very start of Antiquity. We're playing as Augustus of Rome.
Carl's the
we're here
one
on
playing.
Our map. We have our very
Love it.
first unit, and we're
Love
going to
it.
start up our civilization and advance a few turns here.
Right, and as a quick disclaimer for everybody watching, just a reminder that this is a work in progress build. Please keep that in mind as we show it off
Okay,
to you. We're
so
excited, but just in case
The
we see any
UI,
funky visuals,
noticeably,
keep that in mind. Thanks, guys.
is a lot better
Yeah, so
scaled.
our first unit here is
I will say that.
what's called a founder. This is different from our traditional settler unit in that it creates a capital city. All our
Founder
settler
and
units,
settlers
which
are
we'll see a
different.
little bit later on in the game, now create a town. So the founder is a separate unit from the settler.
I think that's actually just a great moment to highlight how many things in this game are both familiar and new at the same time if you've been playing the franchise for a while. The things that you may see when you first start this is you would expect it to make a city. And like Carl just walked us through, there's some unique differences there. You can see that throughout the entire HUD. We've got our yields in the upper corner, and a lot of those are going to function the way that those of you who played Civ are familiar with. Some of them are new, and others are
So
like the
basically what he's
influence
saying
one we're
is
just
that
looking at.
settlers make
Others have
towns
changed a
late
little bit,
game,
like,
but your
happiness is
first
gonna be
one
something-
doesn't.
It's a full
That's
yield
the
now,
only
and
thing,
we're going to
really.
get to what that means and how that affects things a little bit later. But I think that just throughout this stream, we're going to start covering as many of those details as we can. There's going to be so much more than what we can talk about. But this is really going to be a deep dive through all
So you
of
can
those.
see at the top
Yeah,
there,
absolutely.
no
Why don't we
faith.
go ahead and start our capital?
No
Of course,
faith.
yeah.
Worth
so,
pointing
I'm
that
gonna
out.
settle right here in place. We are sitting on a minor river. We have two
Also, the
kinds of
founder has
rivers in
chickens?
Civilization 7. Minor rivers
is
are sort
that?
of what people are used to. It runs through the center of the hex like this. And then we have our new navigable river. The minor river flows into this navigable river right here. So we're going to settle right at this transition. Fresh water is still important.
cool.
It
That's
gives
cool.
a happiness bonus to the settlement. So yeah, we're going to settle right on this. That
there's
gives
no
us that
housing
happiness
from
bonus.
water, but
And
water
if we
gives
zoom out here,
happiness
we're
for a
able to see
city.
that
So
we
it's
get
still worth
all
having.
Our culture borders around those initial tiles. And we're going to start by choosing production. We have no other units. We've just created the settlement and have nothing else. We can see here that our first two choices are a scout or a warrior, and both of these take only one turn. And that allows us to pick what unit we want to start with, whether that's a scout or a warrior. It'll finish immediately, and on turn 2, we'll have that unit ready to use. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a scout here so we can start exploring the map.
Before we go on, I think this is just a great moment to talk about the fact that we are living in antiquity, and I want to give my other Andrew here a moment to just talk about what it means to be in this age and what the whole encapsulation of that moment in history is.
Yeah, I think
we've turned it up
for me,
slightly.
when you
Thank you for
divide
donation,
up
Abra. Very kind.
the gameplay into distinct ages, it allows you to really focus on what's interesting about that point in history, what's interesting about that point in time. And when we look at antiquity, however you define the time period, we're looking at a point in time when states are not the dominant power or not the dominant influence in the world. You've got states and you have vast areas which are populated. There are people there, but they're not governed and organized in state formation. So antiquity is a moment where these kinds
towards
of
independent
foundations
nations
are built.
rather
You're
than
building
barbs and city-states and things. That's what he's
social
hinting
systems,
at
you're
here.
building architecture, you're creating language communities. For instance, Latin and Sanskrit and classical Chinese are these kinds of empire-oriented centralized languages.
So
that are
alive there
more
on two
complicated when we
screens.
move on into
It's
later
true.
periods. So
That's unfortunate.
having a focus here in the first stage on that kind of building the groundwork, I think lets you.
I
kind
do
of
like
play
the
with
fact that the
dynamics.
rivers now go
Absolutely.
through the tiles.
Speaking of building groundwork,
That's
let's go ahead
really
and advance
cool.
the turn and we'll get
I
our
like
first
that.
tech.
The radiance of the new world came into being bathed in nectar, bathed in love.
So
Gwendolyn.
here is Gwendolyn Christie reading out our quotes now. For those of you who've played a lot of Civilization, you know that when you get into when you unlock a new tech or a new civic, you get a kind of a quote. And we're really happy to have Gwendolyn Christie reading these.
Gwendolyn was such a good choice.
Absolutely. But also, what I think we wanted to do with the quotes here is to bring a sense of gravitas back to these quotes. Sometimes they're directly related to whatever you're researching, and sometimes they're more evocative. And also remembering that the story of civilization is not based in one part of the world. It's a global one. This is from the Priakan
They're just using more
inscription
quotes.
on
That's what we're
the
trying to
Angkor
say, yeah.
complex in Cambodia.
There's more quote
and
options.
again, talking
Gwendolyn
about
has
kind of
more
the
to read.
New growth, birth, something which kind of goes with agriculture and is evocative about that.
All right, Carl, take us away.
Sounds good. So yeah, we've discovered agriculture. That's our very first technology. You are locked into that at the very first turn. And on turn 2 here, we're able to select a new technology. So we're going to open that up.
Pretty
Our choices
similar
are
to usual, to be
sailing,
honest.
Animal husbandry, or pottery.
I think this is a great moment to talk about what you're going to get from these things, and the fact that I don't have to make the choice right away. I get a little bit of time to see what's going on in the world, and then I get to choose what I get to do. And why don't you tell us why we might choose something over something else?
Yeah, absolutely. So the techs this time do not unlock tile improvements for us. Instead, it unlocks the yields for those tile improvements. We're going to see a little bit more about how tile improvements work here in just a moment.
Yeah.
So
So you can put all tile improvements down from the beginning.
Could be informed by
Pastures,
the terrain
farms,
that's around
lumber
us,
mills, that
the
sort of thing.
resources that are around us, and what
The
yields we want to
techs
try
just
to
give you
focus
the
on
yields for
first.
them.
So I see that we have some sheep nearby. I see that we have some cotton nearby. So those are pastures and plantations. So we want to try to find those. On pottery, we have plantations, and on animal husbandry, we have pastures. I see more sheep than cotton, so I'm going to pick animal husbandry here to try to get that pasture yield.
It's always safe. Always safe.
We also have our new choice of production because our scout
zoom out,
finished,
zoom out.
and we'll come back to the scout here in just a moment. I am going to lock in a warrior as our next unit to build
Gotta get
so
that
that we
defense.
can get
Warrior
that defense.
start rather than scout start. Carl.
Let me select
Carl.
our scout.
Before we move them, I think this is a great moment to talk about another one of those changes that can be both subtle but also really important. And there's the various terrain types here. And Carl, why don't you talk about how that affects our movement in here?
Yeah, absolutely. So terrain is different than it has been in the past. We now have these rough tiles here that we can see that have this really rocky look.
I wish
to
you'd
them.
turn the
And we
yield
have
icons on.
Vegetated tiles down here. Vegetation
would
is
be
actually
useful.
different by biome. So we have our forest here, but say if you were in tundra, you would have
It's worth
taiga.
pointing out,
So the
yields
type of
across
vegetation that you have
all
does
the different
change.
types of terrain are now
and then we
evened
have
at
wet
1,
tiles. So
and
here, this
tiles
is
have a lot
marsh, which
less yield to
appears in
start with.
grassland. That also
Improvements
changes
do a
by
lot
biome
more now.
type. These are now turn ending. In previous games, in Civ 6, we had these cost a certain amount of movement points from the unit. We can see we still have movement points as a stat on the unit.
Yep.
But rather than each of these terrain types costing a certain number of those points, they end the movement entirely.
I think this is a perfect example of a lot of changes you're going to see in here where we try
movement
to
is a lot
take
different.
The complexity
Movement is a lot
out,
different.
but keeping the interest in.
Absolutely.
And this is actually a really great story was shared with me where this idea of the turn movement ending was actually came from Sid Meier himself when he was talking about Ed and him were talking about how do we want to adjust things. And I noticed though your scout is moving through this. Why is that happening easier?
Yeah, I said it's turn ending, but we actually are able to go straight through this because it's a scout. Scouts are able to ignore those terrain.
The scouts can
rules,
just
and
move.
they're able to move faster
But
and farther. Through
basically
the terrain,
what
which is gonna let
happens
us
is that
explore
you can
more of
move
the
as many
map.
tiles
But our
as you can
warrior that
move
we're gonna
in all
build, that will
cases,
have
but
to
now
obey those
terrain just
terrain
ends the
rules as
turn.
well.
So there's no like
I will
this
point
terrain
out
is
that
worth
the
2
minor
movement, this
river
terrain is worth
is
3
turn
movement,
ending
it just
even
ends
for
the
the
turn.
scout. You can't just
So
cross
it's a
the
little
river
different.
easily. You
Little
have to spend a
different.
turn there to try to get across that. And of course, on
Bit more like
navigable
Civ 5.
rivers, you will embark your unit. So now we have Grow City. This is another one of those things you're
Population
talking about. When we
2.
change it
You-
from
now
how it
you're
works
gonna
in the
see
past. No more
how you
do
put
we have a
improvements
worker
down.
or builder unit. Now, when it's time for your settlement to grow, you get to do this Grow City action, which brings us into a top-down screen, and we're able to
this is
select
builders and
what tile we
workers.
want to
This is
grow
where
into,
they've
and
gone.
tile improvement is automatically placed on the map, and our settlement begins working that land.
Yeah, I think it's just a huge change. Obviously, we'll talk about what the red means a little bit later. There's a lot of import there. But I think being able to just
Do you see how low the
directly
yields on the
control
tiles
not
are?
just what you get,
Everything is a lot lower
but
now.
which direction your city is growing is a huge change for us. And again, keeping that interesting decision.
Watch for culture
clear and
bomb
at
when
the
he does
forefront.
this. This is
Yeah,
important.
which direction we grow is actually a huge part of this. When you select one of these tiles, you'll actually culture bomb all unowned tiles around it. So those are acquired by your territory and your borders will expand.
Yep.
And you have to grow linearly. So we talked about this sheep resource up here. We can also see gypsum here. We talked about the cotton down here. If we want these resources, we have to grow directly to them tile by tile and expand our city out from that city center. So we have to decide here what resource
I think
we
you'll
wanna
go for the
focus
cotton,
on.
if I'm
we
guessing.
do have another sheep down here. So I want to try to go down here because this cotton is going to give us 2 food and 2 production when we pick it up. So I want to go for this first, and then later we'll go up and get that the sheep and the gypsum up top.
And obviously, we see the yield icons too,
Yeah.
which we're going to earn those.
So he's
as
gonna
soon as we pick
improve
it,
this
we get that
forest
improvement
tile.
and we get those
So
yields
watch
immediately.
this. This
We
is his
do, yes.
2 population
although
boost,
we have
his
to
builder
unlock
charge for this
the
pop.
improvement tile yield from that tech tree. So picking this will give us a woodcutter, but we have to still unlock our woodcutter
And this is
yield,
interesting.
which we will do in the.
He didn't get a choice in what you
So
could
here
put
we can
down.
see
There
that
was just
woodcutter got
one
placed down,
improvement
our
you could put
borders
on a tile.
expanded, and
That
now
is a
this
big
cotton is
change.
inside our territory.
choice.
We own it, but we are not working this yet. We do not have the cotton itself.
Excellent. Let's give that scout some more orders.
We still got to get the
I
tech
really love
for
seeing
cotton.
all the variety in the
There's
map,
iron.
even just for the amount of
So
tiles
there's
that's
the
shown
strategic.
right here. I know something that our players have called out, which is really cool to see, is sort of those terrain height differences.
Yes, we can see them right here.
These
I'm
are like
not able to
internal
move
cliffs.
up onto
Think
this
of them
tile,
that
even
way.
though I'm next to it, because right here, this is a cliff, and this is an inland cliff. There is, like you said, a terrain height difference right here, and I have to obey that as I move around the map. It's not a mountain. This is a mountain right here, but next to it is still this rocky escarpment that I have to circle around.
I think it becomes really interesting for
The deserts
what that
are
means to
pretty.
explore the
The
map
deserts are
and how
really
my
useful as well
ability to
now.
explore
Like you
changes
want
and
to
grows over
settle
time.
deserts.
Yeah, and when you have the scout with the scout dog and you reach a navigable river, the dog's also embarked.
No iron grease, yeah.
They're with you. Don't worry.
We do have a question actually on the scout dog, which we know is a vital aspect to the scout. Jared from YouTube asks, can we change the scout dogs to cats? Vital info needed here.
There isn't a cat that I can recall right now, but there is going to be some fun surprises coming for what you can do with different dogs and how those are earned and unlocked and chosen based on who you are.
We love the scout dog here too.
I was having a conversation with Ed at Gamescom, and he was telling me that the cliffs and the highland areas actually interact with a rainfall model that underlies the map gen for Civ, and that actually feeds into how the game generates navigable and minor rivers as well too. So it's just a cool.
The maps are really clever. They did look really interesting.
In Civ.
Did you see what the scout did there?
So I did a unique action with our
There you go.
scout here.
He's talking about it now.
We have a few new actions with our recon units. So first we have Lookout.
Yep.
This allows us to place a watchtower where the scout is, and it increases our sight range by 1.
Yep.
It will sleep the unit, so it'll just stay there.
So basically
on that
use it
tile,
as a guard.
acting as that
Permanent
lookout,
guard
letting
to
us
keep an eye out
see
for
more
people.
of the terrain. This is really great for keeping an eye on enemies or particularly areas of interest. And then we have Search. Search does the same thing. It increases your sight
This
range
was
by
really
1,
good.
but this lasts for only 1 turn, and it reveals all discoveries within the range that you are able to see. Discoveries are our new goodie huts, and there's a variety of types of them. We have revealed 2 with this action. Over here, we have Wreckage, and then here, we have Ruins. There it is. I was looking for it, and it was at the very bottom. It's Ruins. So we're going to grab this Wreckage first, and then we're going to go
So
over
you
to
can
those
use
ruins
scouts
and
to
pick that
find
up.
goodie
Another
huts
great example
on a
of the
really
cheating
big
that we see
radius
right
and
here.
then
Yes.
go in that direction. So scouts are really
So, Andrew,
important
you
now.
want to talk a little bit about what we see here?
Now you get a choice.
So this is the discovery system again. Gives you a little bit of a small story that's attached to these places on the map. In addition, there's other narrative events that may come up based upon certain decisions that you make in the game, certain actions that you make, who you are and who you're playing and how you're playing. So expect a little bit more.
They're trying to give a
just love getting
story.
because
They're trying
not
to
only
make
are
the
they
map
awesome things to see on the map and
make
make it fun to
sense.
move around,
Like you're
but it's,
building a
if
civilization.
you're
They're
talking about,
really,
like,
really into
really
that
enshrining
history
what it means
aspect
to
of
be
it
an
this time
antiquity.
around. So
These
expect
are
to see a lot of
stories,
this sort of
these are
stuff.
experiences that people, might have had that let me, understand what was going on there.
I love the
And it's got
debug.
the gameplay choice
I love
here
the
for me as
debug,
well.
yeah.
So which Carl, I'm sure, will make the best possible choice.
I hope so. So we do have 2 choices here. We found a campfire that some soldiers have abandoned, and we can either take the supplies or demolish the camp and erect a banner in this location.
You get to choose.
That will give us 2 different yields. If we take
There's
the
a lot of
supplies,
choices like
we will
that.
get
I got
50
ones
gold.
that gave me science,
If we demolish
culture,
the camp, we will
production,
get 50
3 units,
happiness
gold.
towards the next
There's a load of
celebration.
variations
We'll talk a
there.
little bit more about what celebrations are and what they do later on. I think I'm going to take the gold. Early gold is very strong, lets you do a lot of different things, so I'm going to take those supplies.
50 gold.
Speaking of gold, we have a lot of questions from chat asking about economic victories, how economics work in the game. Can we speak a little bit to that?
Oh boy, that's
Economic
Big
victories.
question.
It's a big question. I think that we can talk a little bit about it, but the biggest spot is going to
caged
be a little bit
bird
later when we get to talk more about the
watches
legacy
butterflies
paths and the victories. But
with
rest assured
envy.
that the economic gameplay is definitely an area where we've expanded quite a bit and giving you a lot of things. And again, making that gameplay relevant and different for each age.
Absolutely.
And I think we'll show off a little
All
bit
he
of-
said
of
there was,
trading
depending
too.
on
We're
the
gonna get
age,
some trading,
a
we'll get to
victory
some,
condition is going to be very
legacy paths
different.
about that.
That was a very woolly answer
We're
that
done
told
with
us
this.
nothing.
Yeah, this is just Kobayashi's. It's part of a haiku there. That is just.
Oh, he's proud of his
I believe
haiku.
it's I'm not
Bless
sure
him.
exactly, but it's the idea of imagining the perspective of a domestic animal looking outside and seeing what else is out there, what other lives are there.
They go, yeah,
It
do you see,
also
look,
goes
he
along with
claimed the
era as
tile
well.
out
Again,
to the
this is a
third
place
ring.
where in many places
I don't think
it
you
was
claim the
healthier
4th ring in the
and-
same way, but I might be
more
wrong.
free to be
Oh,
outside
actually,
of
maybe you
states,
do.
and here we are playing
Keep an
the
eye out
kind
for
of expansion of agriculture and militarism and hierarchy out into the land, kind of forever altering the
Yes, he built the
world.
plantation
I think one
immediately.
of the things
All
also in
improvements
terms of,
are
like, the
unlocked at the
wreckage
start,
bits that you found up there,
but you don't get any
maybe some
yields
other
or
things that you'll
resources
discover
from them
soon.
until you get the tech. That's the difference.
Is that this idea of those blank
So there it
spaces
is.
on the map are
Pottery's
not,
needed to make the plantation
blank.
work.
that we were to imagine that they're also inhabited. They're lived in by people. Yeah.
Other people that are inhabiting
Right.
the space. All right, so I think for our next piece of production here, we're going to go ahead and make a granary.
A granary. This is making
will
districts.
Our farms.
This is how
pastures,
you
and
make
plantations.
districts.
This does put the yield directly onto those tile improvements, onto the map itself. The saw pit will improve camps and woodcutters. We do have a woodcutter right now, but we also have a plantation. And the granary, because it's going to improve pastures, is going to help both the plantation and the pasture that we put on those sheep. So I think this is going to be our first building. When we create a building, we create a new urban district. If we are selecting a new tile, each district can hold up to 2 buildings. So I could put it into our city center here. We have a palace in the city center, so that's one building, and it can hold up to 1 other building.
Let's go ahead and start so we can show the people what that looks like.
Yeah, so if I select this, we can see where I'm able to place this. I can't place it onto the navigable river because that is technically a water tile, and this building does not go on water.
Nope.
If I were to place it into any one of these tiles here, it would create a new urban district. We would then lose access to that land. We can't put any tile improvements there. Those are on rural tiles only. So when we create a new tile improvement, like we did here with the woodcutter and here with the plantation, that creates a rural district that has a tile improvement.
So you've got to make sure you don't build over your improvements because you lose them. I did that. It's really annoying.
We said we can expand with it where we already have. We can grow to a new
area.
Yeah,
slingers have 2 range.
Slingers have 2
range. That's quite useful.
If we wanted to urbanize and take that woodcutter out, we could eventually put buildings here. Probably don't want to do that quite so early. But it is important to note that you can take those things over.
Well, and what happens when you take those over is you actually get that population to move someplace else. So you're telling the people who are working that woodcutter, hey, I need you to go do something else. And then they can go and relocate themselves to a new tile, even a new type of tile improvement. So I could say, go make a farm, go make a pasture.
Oh,
it's
interesting.
a great way to see how things are built.
I think that's been tweaked since we played it.
And as your needs change, you can change.
Yes. Interesting.
And actually, Sucratact from Twitch asks, do you lose the tile yields for building an urban district?
You lose the natural tile yields. So natural tile yields do not continue to remain.
Casual Sucratact getting a question in there. Love it.
If I were to build on top of this woodcutter, we can see on this tile tooltip here, we have 1 food and 1 production. And it's notable that that production comes from having discovered animal husbandry. That's the woodcutter yield. So we unlocked that, and now this is giving us that production. That would go away. We would never have access to that again. Instead, we would have access to the building yields that we're adding here, which with this granary is 2 food. I am going to put this up here. And the reason that I'm selecting this particular tile is because buildings and new urban districts function similarly to new rural districts in that they culture bomb surrounding tiles.
So
and when you
he's
add a
making
new rural district,
the longest city ever.
You are able to extend it off of
he's making
any
the line city
tile that the city already is working. Not just owns, but is working. So that's the urban and the rural districts.
So you get all the yields from all the tiles you own all the time. So making your city really big is really clever to do.
Directly onto the gypsum tile. And that will allow us to grab those resources faster.
Do it.
And just for
Bam.
anybody who's
There
not
you go.
familiar from Civ 6, the concept
Another
of culture
district.
bombing is where you expand your borders and it grabs adjacent tiles as well too.
But it only bombs when you finish it. So we still got to finish
we're all
it.
used to calling it that. And
There's so many terms and changes. It's hard to keep track of what we have to explain. Oh,
down to
this is
someone
great.
else.
So we met somebody on the map here. Can you pull out a little bit?
Relationship hostile. Oh, we found a bad one.
This is a scout. But this isn't just a barbarian. This isn't just another civ. We've added this increased, possibility space to what you find. Like Andrew mentioned with the discoveries, there's a story there. It's a lived-in place. These are people who live in this world. And these ones happen to be hostile. We got that red ring around them. We got to watch out for them.
So some people start as hostile, some start as friendly, but you can interact with them in any way you want.
And the only way to deal with them was combat. We could fight them, or we could have some
different
other
dogs. Yes,
Carl's going to
a lot of different dog
find
models.
Where they're from on the map, and then we'll see what some of those additional interactions look like.
And hopefully they won't attack us.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got the warriors now.
We do have the warriors, but you know what? I want to keep exploring with the warriors. So we've got our scout moving to the north. I'm going to send our warrior to the south, and then we might be able to find some more things down here. We want to try to grab as many of those discoveries as we can. That'll give us early yield. And that's
pop relocation. I thought.
Speaking of discoveries,
I don't know if that was in the one we
question from
played. I think that's been a
Thomas from
tweak.
YouTube. He
I'd be wrong.
asks, will Eureka's be in the game?
That is a great question. We do not have Eurekas in the game or inspirations. Those function a little bit differently than they have in the past. We still
Eurekas
have
and inspirations.
some of those goals, but we don't have them give the boost of science or culture that they have from Civ 6.
I think you'll see
So
that
there
some of the
are
other systems, like the
quests
Discovery system and
or
the,
like
the stories
goals,
that pop up. There's a,
but there's
it's a
no
different way to
Eureka
scratch
and
some of that
inspiration
gameplay
system,
in.
which is a shame. I did like
Right,
that
a little
system,
more like
but
of a narrative kind
Yeah.
of
Okay,
approach with some of these discoveries, so to speak, that players will recognize, but it's taken on a new form.
So here we have our first civic. Like we are locked into our
happy.
first tech at the very start of the game with agriculture, our first civic is also locked in with chiefdom. It just takes a little bit longer to unlock. Civics unlock social policies, which are a card-based system that our veteran players will be familiar with.
Yep. So this
Here
is
we
like
get
Civ
two
6.
social policies. We have charismatic leader, which will give us culture, and we have tool making, which will give us production and science. I'm not going to go straight into change policies yet. I'm going to back us out here, and we're going to go to a different screen first. We're going to select what government we want.
Okay, so these are the
If I
government
select
choices.
what
Tier
government,
1.
to choose from, we get these three options: classical republic, despotism, and oligarchy.
I was
Yeah,
a
this is
despot
great
when I played.
chance to talk about another one of those changes where we're still making a government choice, but it's decoupled from some of the things it was tied to in the past. You see, here we're talking about a celebration, which is something we sort of hinted at a little bit earlier.
Celebration
And this
is
gonna
basically
be
just a golden age from
significant
Civ
change.
5. That's the way to
The
think about
happiness
it.
yield,
It's
in
basically a
addition to
Civ
few other
5
things,
golden
we'll
age.
keep talking about that one, coming back to it. But here, as your excess happiness is going to certainly build your civilization to having a celebration when you reach a threshold, and based on what government you have, you're going to get to choose how do you what happens in your city. How do your people celebrate? In a classical republic, are you getting the culture? Or are you going for the production on wonders? In despotism, is it the science, or are you going for infantry? So choosing this is really about choosing what you want available to you
We
later
love the King
as
Day.
you have those
Similar.
moments.
Yeah, similar.
I think we're
But
going with
more like a
Classical Republic here.
golden age.
Rome, a classical republic?
Indeed.
Shocking. So we got a question from Georgia. It's
all about being a despot.
And Andrew
Exactly.
Andrew Johnson. Dr. Johnson, this is one for you. Is cultural progression in Civ 7 based on real-life civilization transformations?
Cultural progression meaning
Moving through the culture tree.
In a sense, it sort of is taking. I mean, to get any kind of causality
coast.
when we're talking about
He's blocked. He's blocked.
you know, the development or we're talking about changes in society. You know, we see
Look, do you see?
more change and
So
alteration.
there's
and
two
not
Roman
really a
options at
kind
the top of the tree there.
evolution, Whereas
That is his
civics
unique
tree and a tech tree
Roman
and something like
civic
Civ
tree
has
that
kind
you
of
can
an
choose.
evolutionary
Maybe he'll
model
open
where
up the
things
full
get
tree
kind
in
of
a second and
increasingly
show you.
something or other. But I think here instead we're thinking about the points in that age. If we look at the age as a whole, what are the inflection points within a particular society or various societies in there? And especially for civics, we're talking about the development of statecraft, of forms of government, as well as other forms of sort of artistic expression, social life. So here, we're looking at military discipline on one hand, the idea of a professional
Double
army. We
moving
see this
into the
developing
fog,
some
fog,
places,
yeah.
Syria in
Hilarious.
a big way. Versus mysticism, which is a little bit more of a general.
So all of your
term
cards are still
for,
locked in the civic tree. Did you see
organized
discipline
religion,
had a good one there?
organized
+1 movement and
organized
+1 visibility
But
on
also,
scouts.
what else
It's
we got there, Carl?
amazing.
So we have some unique
So good.
civics. These are unique to Rome. Once you complete chiefdom, you do unlock a Civ unique civics tree.
It's totally
This has
separate, this tree.
additional abilities
Totally
for your
separate.
Civ that allow you to continue to power up your civilization's ability as you continue to progress through the age. This is also where you get your unique infrastructure. Here we see Temple of Jupiter and the Basilica, both of which are unique buildings for Rome. We get a lot of stuff from this tree. We are going to pick some of these later, but the first thing that I want to do is pick discipline, because discipline will give us our army commander. Army commanders are a brand new unit
commander.
to Civ
There you
7.
go.
We are going to talk more about them here in a moment once we have one to show off. But
Survey.
this will give
Did you
us
see
our
survey?
legatus. And the
It's a
Legatus
really
is
good early
unique
game card.
commander for
+1
Rome,
scout movement and
one
sight.
of our 2 unique units.
Really
and
good.
it does some really cool things. So the earlier we get it, the better. And I'm going to lock in Discipline as our
He's
civic
deliberately
choice.
not
do wanna
pressing
just say, I
tree,
think
isn't he?
it-
They're
just to go
keeping
back to
that.
that
They're
question you
keeping
had,
that
I think
hidden.
It is really great.
We've
to say
noticed.
that
We've noticed.
because of these 2 trees, it gives us 2 different ways to look at the history, like
Yeah.
about these people and about the world. And I think that when we're looking at that sort of shared civic history for the age, like you said, we see the things that were more common or
Did
more
you see there's a lot more
generalized, and then
options
we
in
see
the
things
bottom
that are
right to
very
select the
Roman.
thing you want
And
to
those
from
are
the
things where
next
the
action
narrative
picker.
team and the design team work
It's
together
a lot
to find
better.
stuff
That is
has
better.
such an identity that you feel more Rome when you're picking those things. You get to see what that was at that height in history.
Yeah, and I mean, for Rome-specific questions, Carl has a degree in classics.
Classical culture.
Classical culture.
Yep.
So I'll defer to Carl on
Thank you.
Latin things.
Yeah, it was great to be able to, put that to use to make Rome, to make all of the different antiquity civilizations that we have, and it was a lot of fun.
Carl has more depth than just being the barbarian. He's
Thank
got some
you.
historical
I
depth
appreciate
to
you
him.
saying that.
Like everything around here, there's layers.
There are layers.
Exactly.
We do have a new narrative choice available, so I'm going to go ahead and click that, and we'll see what we have here.
So this is interesting.
So this is a
As the game
Roman
goes
unique
on,
story.
stuff
so the Senate is in
happens.
session. The voices are raised in conflict. A lone senator speaks out against imperial fiat, while Augustus's supporters seek to drown him out. So we have a few different choices here. The
Basically
first two of
sets the
these will
quest
give us a
that you want
quest.
to try and
This
achieve.
is kind of like what I was talking about earlier with the question about Eurekas and inspirations. So we do still have some of these kinds of goals that can appear. We can either choose to build 3 monuments, which will give us culture.
And they have
or
rewards
we
if
can
you do
choose
them as
to
well.
have a commander that gets 3 promotions, and that will give us plus 15% production towards training infantry units. Or we can choose to not have a quest and then one of those goals and just back out of this and get 33 goals.
So you can just
And
ignore it.
something
At any
like
point,
like
you can
this
press
too
that
allows you
button
to
one
kind
and
of
just get
role-play a
gold.
little bit.
So you don't
Too,
have
in
to
that
interact
build
with
3
the
monuments,
system.
what does that mean? That means have
Lots of
multiple
culture.
cities. Yeah, well, also spread out, have
game
multiple
goes on
cities.
stuff
So this can also be thought of as a choice between having a decentered, more expansive society versus backing it down on doubling down on the army, which is something that Romans generally did not do. Is that right, Carl?
I think that it depends on what period of Rome you are
Okay.
looking at.
So you're Augustus.
So Augustus is actually really interesting. We do have decoupled civs and leaders this time. You can have any leader lead any civilization, and Augustus himself we do not have set up to be a militaristic leader.
right.
No,
Augustus
that's
is
a
set
good
up to
point.
be an
Augustus is not a
expansionist
military
He's all
leader.
about having
He's a
lots of towns
cultural
to support
leader.
a very strong capital.
Very different.
And that's because Augustus founded the Pax Romana, which is a period of peace around the Mediterranean that lasted around 200 years, and it began with his reign. Not that he didn't do any conquering, but he had this big expansionist period where he had lots of provinces, founded lots of new settlements, and that's the part of Augustus that I wanted to focus on. Whereas with Rome,
The 33 gold
Rome
is
a
instantaneous,
conqueror.
and you
Rome
just
is a
get
military
it.
civ. They have
If you don't
some
do
really
your
strong
quests, you don't get
military units. They have
anything.
this unique
So
army
it's
commander.
like instant
And
reward
so when
versus
you pair those two
long-term
things
game.
together,
That's
you
the
get
choice
sort
you're
of this,
making.
really interesting examination of what Rome was over the course of its entire history.
So in a way, this story allows you to kind of pick, okay, what kind of Rome are we focusing on? Are we focusing on Republic? Are we focusing on Empire? Or do we just not care and want money? And that's the third.
Exactly.
And one of our players asked a question. Faculty's intact from Twitch. Are these choices because of playing Augustus, or are these choices because of playing Rome?
So
Ooh, interesting.
Able to answer that than I am.
This is going to be playing.
This whole
Augustus.
this is because you're Augustus.
Yeah.
This story
So the
is
quest is
you're
because of Augustus.
So it's not that
Interesting.
the choices are so much. It's that this whole story is Augustus's story.
Right.
How do you want to lead into
Ah.
that? And versus if you had even if you were still Rome, but if you had picked a different leader, you would have that leader's story.
Actually, you
coming
can
up.
see it. Do you
You're
see
right,
debug
and
leader
sometimes
chain?
there's
You
combinations.
see that?
Sometimes it triggers if you are Augustus and Rome.
So if you're
Sometimes
Augustus and you're playing
the
Egypt, you'll still
triggers
get the
might
same
be more
chain.
hidden
Interesting.
Or
It's all
complex
based on the
than just
leader.
simply you are this or you are that. Yeah,
That's what makes them available, not that it's always guaranteed. Yeah.
of course.
I want to know what Carl's going to pick. I'm dying here.
Yeah, sorry. So because we are going for discipline as our first civic, and we're trying to get that legatus as early as possible, I want to try to go ahead and give it promotions, and I think we're going to go with.
He's
only
getting
the
full
strength
military.
and
He's a
loyalty of the
barbarian,
army
let's be
matters.
honest.
Right up
Carl
my
Barbarian.
alley.
So
Yeah.
you can give Carl a degree in classics, but the warlord will win in the end.
You can take Carl to university. But,
Yeah. All right.
all
All right, so we have command
Yeah, let's
units.
get some
Let's
units.
keep moving this scout.
Show us
We're
more
trying to get
map.
these ruins over here, so
Get
we're
some
going to move
exploration.
along. And this is another cliff where we can't go straight down, so I'm going to use this opportunity to try to search again. We're
Yeah,
gonna reveal
search
some
again.
more land around us and see
Show us
other
what we
discoveries
can
might be
see.
nearby.
Bam. Very
So no
handy,
new
that
discoveries
ability.
besides what
Especially
we'd
when you have the
already
+1
revealed, but
visibility
we
card in
do
your
see a path-
government.
we also see a path around if we want to
We
get
do
there.
see a path around now that we didn't have to move all the way over there to see. We're able to see that there are no other independent units, hostile units nearby, no other civilization units nearby. We have a much better grasp of the lay of the land without having to go.
Lots of land
move
to
every
his
single
north.
of those
Absolutely
points.
one of my
Another
favorite
navigable
things to do
river.
early
Do you see
on
if
is
there's
start using that
gypsum
ability.
on the map there?
Head down the coast here. And again, you're showing stopping on that river.
Yep, the river ends that
Turn any
movement.
movement.
So he's going to get another
All
pop
right,
now.
We met someone.
Oh, so he's met India.
हम अशोक ही संसार के मध्य बिंदु के एगो महान राजा और एगो महान पापी
All right.
So this
Right
is
here,
interesting. This is
we'll
now
sit
the
for just a
Diplo
second and Start
system.
talking a little bit about our new diplomacy system.
The diplomacy
'cause there's so
system
much
is
going
very
on here.
interesting.
Some of it you may have picked up, some of it you've seen, but when we meet a leader now, it's not just hi. This is a hi and a little bit about how I want to approach them. And on top of that, we get to talk about our influence here. So you've always got the ability to have a neutral greeting. That's just sort of the traditional, hey, we've met. But now you can sort of, how do I want to approach this leader? Based on who they are, based on how I'm planning to play
The main
this
thing
game,
here
I can decide from
Is
the
you
very
see the
beginning,
hostile and
what
friendly
foot do we
greeting
want to
costs
start off on.
influence.
And then I'm
Top
going to have
left
to
of the
use my
screen, we've
influence,
got
which is
80
that
of
new yield for
we
our
can spend it
diplomatic
and do
system
something,
that's going to
or press the middle button and save our influence. That's basically the choice
or
there.
that way, but down the road, I'm not going to have that diplo for other things. So I don't know if we've already got a plane here, Carl, but you're.
I feel like Carl's getting as a character.
Actually, before we jump in, who did we meet?
So this is Ashoka, one of the more famous emperors in Indian history and of the Maurya dynasty, and we will see the Maurya is also a playable civ, and Ashoka here is playing Maurya. His lines here, a lot of these will reflect either actual things that the individual said. In this case, Ashoka's story, the part of the character that we're leading on is this moment in Ashoka's life where he is engaged in a military campaign, achieves dramatic success and slaughters his enemies, and then suddenly realizes that he may have done something wrong. He converts to Buddhism and begins to spread Buddhism all across northern India, and is attributed, his model of kingship is also attributed to parts of Southeast Asia as well, though the historicity of that is in question.
And we're also going to show up more of Ashoka in this stream as well, which is exciting. I just want to take a moment to call out the awesome soundtrack of the game. I do have a question. I didn't know, Andrew, you've got a lot to say about the soundtrack, which is awesome. Magistat from YouTube asks, will each civilization have their own soundtrack, and do they mix together with others as the ages progress? So maybe we can answer that and then just speak to the soundtrack as a whole as well.
Yeah, every civ has its own theme, right? And so what we're hearing right now, as we meet Maurya, we're hearing Maurya's theme. And I get excited about this one, just because it reflects,
unique music.
touches upon, other lives that I
It seems
I have,
a lot more
but it's,
chill than in previous
it's
games. That's one thing I have
a
noticed.
Indian style music. It has, though, within it, it's in Pali is the language here. It's a Buddhist chant. Buddham Sharanam Katsani. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dhamma. I take refuge in the Sangha. So it fits so well a feeling of.
He's very excited
South
about the
Asian
music.
Buddhism.
This is what I'm talking about.
That feels
All
very
of the
Ashoka
devs
to
are
me,
like
and
this.
I-
They were all like
you
this
know,
when we met them.
I
They were all
think
just
the music
absolutely
for
thrilled
Civ
about
6
what they
was
were doing.
fantastic, and I
a good
think
thing.
if you liked that You will like this as well.
Yeah.
Spend influence to get a negative relationship.
Actually,
Yes,
Got
that's
a
very
really
important.
wonderful message
You
in
need
our
a negative
digital
relationship
message
to go
board
to
the
a
other day,
justified war.
thanking the music
So
team for their work on this
it is
and
important.
sharing that story with everybody. So that's part of the fun of working on a Civ game is, seeing people's connection to it kind of get excited in the course of this. All right, Carl, go ahead and make your choice, so we'll move on from here.
I do before you're going to point something out too, but I also want to call out to our art team just the experience of being able to see the two leaders together, and as we go through, you'll get to see their reaction as Carl decides how he feels about Ashoka, or at least how his Augustus feels about Ashoka. We get to
the
see
team
that play out
really
from
like
both of them.
the one-on-one greeting.
Sure,
here.
yeah.
I don't think that's going
I'm
anywhere.
actually going to pick friendly greeting.
The
here, and that's
graphics
because I want us to
definitely
show off
look
some of the diplomacy options we
more
have
like
in the
what
game.
I saw.
And
It's much
by picking
better than
friendly,
in a lot of the
we
art
might
we've
be able
seen
to
so
foster
far.
that relationship some, show what we can do with influence. We'll have other opportunities to attack people. I'm not worried about that. So we're going to start with friendly greeting and see what that
There you
does.
go. He's spending
a little bit of our
influence,
yield to do
and that means that they're on good terms, and he gets to see his capital.
I'm worried about
Well,
it.
it's Augustus.
So
not
there you
Carl.
go.
Okay.
So now we're taken into our diplomacy screen.
He can spend
with
more if
Ashoka.
he wants.
So we can do open borders. We can do our normal denounce military presence when they're near our borders. We have a series of endeavors here, and these are unlocked by the leader that we're playing and the attributes that they have. We'll talk more about attributes later on. Right now we can do cultural exchange, and this will grant additional culture to each leader. I'm the one proposing it, so if he just
So
accepts it,
these
I'll
are basically
get 4
like
culture
trade
per
deals
turn,
you can do
and
right from the
Ashoka will
beginning.
get 2 culture per turn.
Spend influence,
He
you
can
get
also
other
choose
yield.
to support it, which forces him to spend some influence and say, hey, this is something we want to do together. We're going to do this in the spirit of cooperation. That increases the yield for both leaders, so we'll both get 6 culture per turn.
This is
and that will
interesting.
last for 10 turns.
If you ask for
He can also
something, you get a
choose to
yield.
reject this, and
If
he has to
they
spend
also
influence in
spend
order to do
influence
that.
on top of your
Accepting is the
influence,
only
you both
option
get
that's
more.
free.
This is
He
a really
rejects
interesting
it,
use of
it hurts our
influence. This is something we're going to see a
relationship,
lot of
and I don't get anything.
in decision
Neither one of
making
us
early
gets anything.
And I
game.
think this is a great moment to highlight that our diplomatic system, in addition to having the new yield, is much more about these actions, these endeavors and sanctions, and pushing
You see
my
the sanctions
relationship
there.
with the
That's why you'd
leaders
want a
up or
negative
down,
relationship. You
or,
can sanction people
capitalizing on the
instead of
relationship that I've already
endeavoring them.
built.
So that's interesting.
It's not just a deal table. We don't have a deal table where you're just passing resources or money back and forth. This is much more about the dynamic interactions between the two of them.
And this list of actions is going to expand as
It
you
will.
But we don't know what
Right. It
meetings
will
are going to look
expand,
like in
and
multiplayer.
we
That's a
have
good
some other
question.
things down at the bottom
We haven't
that
seen
we're
any
gonna look at
multiplayer yet.
later
I
on.
don't think
We're
we
gonna
will
start
for a
this
little
cultural
while.
exchange and see
Multiplayer will
whether
probably be one of the
he
last
accepts
things
it,
we see, I would guess.
supports it or rejects it. So he's supported, he spent influence in order to support
Okay.
it, and we both are now getting 6 culture per turn, which will update on our top bar yields here in a moment.
And we got
There
a
you go.
quick
So both of them
question
spent
from chat.
influence there,
Each
and
vector
now they're
asks,
both
does the
getting
influence
6
get
culture per
refunded
turn.
if the other
That's a
side
huge
refuses the
increase. He's just
offer?
gone from 11 to 17.
I believe
It's a
so.
big influence.
I do not
Big
specifically
increase.
recall off the top of my head.
I believe that's
I
correct.
believe that's correct. I believe you get your influence back. You do not, however, get their influence. So when they spend influence to reject it, you don't get that, but you do get yours, what you spend.
So yeah, influence is basically just the more of it you've got,
So
the more of
other
these
thing that
diplomatic actions you can
accepting-
take.
Or excuse me, that they're doing.
If you run out of influence, if people ask you for something, you
did,
just
it
have to
revealed
accept it because you don't have the
his
influence
capital us.
to
So if we
oppose it.
Pan up here on
a
the
very
map,
interesting
we are able
mechanism.
to see that settlement location now, and we have an idea of where they are on the map. And that revealed both capitals. So now he has this same visibility on us and knows where we are on the map.
Yeah, making alliances right and nerdy with people,
We'll be able to show
if you've
more
got the
of,
influence,
the different,
they're really powerful, but you run out of influence
architecture
really
of
quickly.
another
So
civilization.
you can only
Maybe
have a
load
couple of
into
allies
a
at the
later
same time.
save.
Yes.
So, Carl, what do you think? Do you think we should load into that later save? See the end of Antiquity?
Yeah, I
here?
think it's a decent
Here we
time
go.
to.
So they're going to
do that.
accelerate through now to the end of the
It's
game.
just, I
So,
saw you put down
they're
the
running out
farm
of time
there.
already.
I think the animations
I
in this
suspected
are
this
so
would
cool.
happen.
There's always something going on,
Yeah.
Your founder's goat is jumping around, and
Yeah.
the chickens are flapping, and
And we'll get to see some of those military unit animations when we get
I know
into
we're
Central
really
Save.
excited to see exactly how commanders manage to pack armies in.
Okay, so we're going to see some combat, we're
contrary
going to see some
popular
commander
belief, it
movement.
is not, in fact,
We saw a little bit of this from the
ingesting them and
trailers and
carrying them
gameplay we've seen
Correct.
before,
And then,
but we'll get to sort of
when they
see it now,
unpack,
which is
they're
cool.
not physically spitting the units out onto the map. It's more of a deployment.
Yeah, it's more of a military strategy, not a...
Yeah.
While we're
Edible.
loading into that next save, I know something that our players have been dying to hear more about is just what happens on the other side of the map, right? When you start in Antiquity, what's kind of going on during that fog of war? We're going to be speaking to him more in exploration, but is there anything we can kind of speak to?
Yeah, that other side of the map is real, and it's there, and those civilizations are growing and developing on their very own. You won't interact with them directly, but because it is the same game world, you know, they're building what you're going to end up dealing with later or interacting with.
Okay, so this is the same game, but
later.
Even,
beat you out for a wonder, I think, has happened to Carl earlier.
They saw my drawing, didn't they?
All right, so here we are at Rome, later on in Antiquity. What are we looking at here?
All right, so yeah, we are much later on. We have our city built up a lot more. We have a bunch of other settlements around too.
Yeah, this is something to point out.
Rome, the capital.
Can you see how big this city is? It's turned 65 and he's 20 population.
Build walls district by district now, urban tile by urban tile. And that adds defenses to that tile. So when you're trying to capture a settlement, you have to occupy each of those defended districts, the districts with walls.
So there's now 2 city centers for defensive purposes, which is good to know.
So when you have a civilization with unique buildings, a civ with unique buildings gets 2 buildings. You can place those in different tiles if you want to.
He's made his unique
each building does have
district
different
here,
adjacency
the
yields. Those
forum.
are on the buildings themselves now. And so you might want to place the buildings separate to try to maximize the yields that you're getting if you have a particularly good spot for one of them. But if you put them together into the same tile, it creates this unique quarter, and that has an additional effect that is different for every single civ, is different for every single quarter, and it powers you up in some really interesting and cool way. For Rome, it gives you +1 culture and gold for every single tradition.
So we were talking about this before.
Of social policy.
He's basically just explaining that civs have different abilities, and Rome's are all about culture and gold. You can just see how big and fleshed out this city is. 20 population, that's 20 improved tiles, and a bunch of buildings as well. Cities get massive. They get absolutely massive.
We
see
have
just
a
how
few
big
other
the
things going
tiles
on. If we pan around our map, we have some towns. So we talked about towns
These are all
earlier.
towns.
When
Do you see the 5 out of 5 in the top left? So he's hit his settlement cap at the moment. He's riding that nicely.
Towns collect all of the yields around them, and any production that they collect gets converted into gold. It does not stay as production. Towns don't produce buildings for themselves.
All of the production of
Instead,
towns is
they can
becoming
purchase
gold.
Buildings, but they can
That's
only
why he's on
purchase
+50.
certain ones.
So you want lots of
not
towns.
every single
They
building
make you a lot of
that
gold.
a city can build is available in a town. So we're going to...
This is just a great example of, you know, finding that fun and the interest is like, sometimes you want to get bigger, but you don't necessarily want to manage all those production queues. If you want them, you can convert a town into a city by paying for it. But there's a few other things you can do. You can actually specialize a town, and with that, you're going to be able to choose a more specific use for the yields. Carl's got one right here.
Yeah, so that was actually a city. I panned to the very first thing, and I was like, this is a town. It was not a town.
That
was a city.
So he was looking at a
This
second
is
city
town.
there. This is a town.
So
Do you see it's
open this
growing
up, you
town?
can see that the list of
So at the moment
buildings
its
we have
growth
here
is
different than
50%
what we
increased.
built
This one has
in that
not
city.
been specialized yet.
So we have a couple different buildings on this. We can still purchase our units with the gold that we have available, and then this is the focus that we're talking about. So right now we're dedicated to growing this town, and once the town has reached 7 population, we are able to select a different focus for it. So when we open this up,
these are the
you can
focuses.
see
Here we go.
There's a list of these that we can choose from. Each one has a different effect, and allows us to commit this town for the rest of the age to doing one of these things.
So once you do this, you can't undo
when we
it.
Select farming town, for example, will increase all of the food that this town is producing, and that food then goes back to connected cities. We can see that right up here. They send 100% of that food to all of your
all
other
of the
cities, allowing your
food from a
cities to grow
town
and get really
increases your
tall.
capital. That's why the
And
capital
tall
is so
cities are
big.
really
You want a
interesting,
load of
and
towns.
we'll take a look at a tall city here in just a moment and see what that means. So let's go ahead and lock that in. This does make this locked for the rest of the age. We can switch it back to growing itself if we want to. It will continue to grow on its own if we want to have it do that. But I think switching this...
And Carl, are those kind of the 160, the hundreds kind of numbers that we saw there, those are turns or gold? chat wants clarification.
Yes, so that is gold.
Here we go.
That is one of
Gold.
those in-progress build things that you mentioned earlier.
So I was going to say this,
those
yeah.
are gold
Towns
numbers,
don't
it's
have a
just
build
using the
queue.
wrong icon.
They don't have a build
Got
queue.
it.
That was
And
all
I do have
gold
another
numbers.
question from
It
Twitch.
just the
Ire
user
Staff
interface wasn't
asks,
right.
At the top left, there seems to be a city icon with it showing 1/3 after we initially founded our capital city. Are we limited in city count?
That is
during
a
the
great
ages?
question.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
about to talk about it.
Amazing.
So we'll hold on to that for just a few more moments. We'll come down here and we're going to take a look at this unique legatus that we talked about.
Oh, this is his
right
commander.
away. Early on, we discovered discipline.
And this
Obviously,
has
we've
a
got our
legion and an
legatus.
archer attached to it,
We
because you can see the
that
models
this
on the
has a
map.
4 on it. That's the level of this commander.
Yeah, towns,
which is
you
the
rush
number of
buildings by
promotions
buying
that
them
it
with
is
gold.
available
That's the
to
only way you can
choose.
get buildings in
bank
towns, gold.
Promotions if you want. You don't have to choose right away. The level still increases. But we have assigned all of these promotions. We can go ahead and jump in and take a look at what those are. So when we open our commander promotions, we can see that there's a series of promotion trees.
Look how
for us to pick
complicated
from.
great
This
generals
allows us
are
to
now.
specialize
These
our
are all the
commanders in a
promotions you can
variety of
get
different
as you
ways.
level up.
Bastion is all about defense. Assault is all about offense. Logistics is all about different things that your commander is able to do around the map. Maneuver is about moving your commander and your troops. And then leadership is focusing on the commander itself and making it the best commander it can possibly be.
So not necessarily just about leading troops. Some of these are about
Other things, yeah. So if we take a look at this leadership tree, the very first one that we've unlocked here is Zeal. So
This is
when
an
we
interesting
station
thing.
this,
You can use your
this commander in a
commanders to
district,
boost
which
the
is
yields of
place
your
it there, just
settlements.
have it occupy
So
that
they're not
district. It'll
just for
increase all
combat,
the yields
which
in
is
that
quite
settlement
interesting.
by
They're more like
5%.
heroes
So this
in
is
other
more of a
games, I
peacetime
guess.
thing. It's this guy is not necessarily out in the field doing a lot of combat. I have him back at home. This pairs very well with Bastion, which is why we've put these two together here. And so it's like if I get attacked, I'm defending really well, and in the meantime, I'm boosting my settlement.
I think one thing that's really important for people who haven't may have missed it previously is that your commanders are your only units that gain experience points. So you're not gaining it with every combat or
Units
every
don't get
unit on
experience
the map.
points.
It's
Only
now
commanders
centralized,
do.
so you have a less to manage, but at the same time, these bonuses, obviously depending on which one it is, but most of them for the combat affect not the commander, but all the troops around it.
Yes.
They have an area of effect, so
Yeah,
you don't have to worry
pacifist
about
use for
leveling up
commanders.
one
Yeah, you
unit
can
and losing
take
it
them
and
to
that
war,
one's gone. You can
and you
bring,
bring them home, and they
reinforcements
have a
in,
use. It's very
and they
cool,
will
very
immediately
cool.
be brought up to speed because they're part of that army
Yep.
that this commander is providing all of their bonuses to.
And I saw in chat people asking if you can lose a commander. You can, which is devastating.
You can. You can get it back. They will respawn. But there's a certain amount of time that passes before the commander will respawn.
Oh, interesting.
And there is a promotion that decreases the amount of time it takes for your commander to respawn. If you
Ah.
want to make your commander really good, that's the way to go for it. But yeah, you wanna
commanders
target
survive
those commanders
battles.
first
That
when you see
wasn't
them
a
out in
thing
the
before.
field,
I think that's a
particularly if that
change.
level
I
number
think
is
that's a
really high, because
change.
it means that they are buffing all of those units around them, and they're a big threat. So if you off those commanders, if you defeat them, it weakens everything else around them.
Yeah. So they give a
here we can
lot
see
of
a good
bonuses.
example
But
of that.
basically,
The
all the
first Bastion
promotions in your
promotion,
troops
Steadfast,
are
gives a
stationed on your
+2 combat
commander. So
strength
if the
to
commander
all
gets
grand
removed,
units
all of your
around the
troops lose all of
commander
their improvements.
when they are
So they're
defending.
very important.
So this does not help my attack. This helps when I get attacked. The command radius at start is 1 tile. So
One
we can
tile
actually see this when we
radius.
select the commander. The
You see that little
movement
white
here
thing?
is a blue outline. The command radius is this white outline. So all units that are in these 6 hexes around the commander and the center hex itself
you can
are all
increase
within the
that
command radius.
if you
there
want.
are ways to increase the command radius, so it can go up to 2, and that is very strong. The experience you were talking about collecting, that is also within command radius.
Yeah.
So,
So any combat
All
that
battles
happens
that
with
happen
those
within
units
that
is gonna
radius.
add XP back to that
To that
commander.
commander.
And I think there's also a great moment while we're looking at this. We can see that UI. We can see not only do we see the commander, we can see the specific units that are packed in there,
Yep.
their health. And on
There's
top
the
of that, there's a
Archer,
bunch of
there's
new
the
abilities
Legion.
that we see in there.
Ton of
Terrifying
abilities. Yeah, we may
Legion.
not get to talk about all of them, but there's a lot of things where your commander can issue group-wide things or things that they can do while they're packed. That's how they can.
Do you see how
sort of-
many buttons
we often
the
say
commanders
vacuum,
have?
suck in
They
all the
can do
units
a
around
lot
them, or
of
they can
stuff
pack
now.
them
or
individually.
eat them.
No, not eat them.
Oh, right,
They,
right.
They
we said
join
it's
the
not an
eating
edible
them.
thing.
So there's a lot you can do, but this is the Legatus, so they have a couple extra special things even on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Legatus, like we said, is unique to Rome, and the thing that makes it unique is as it gains levels, gains promotions, it is able to create settlements. And that's sort of representing the fact that Rome, particularly Augustus, at that period of the Roman Empire during the Pax Romana for those 200 years, they settled their veteran soldiers into provincial territories and created new towns, new locations, and they settled those veteran soldiers out. That was the promise for and that is represented here with the legatus. So as they gain experience, as their troops have done lots of fighting, they can then settle those troops and create a new town. So here we can see we have a settlement charge on this unit. You get 1 settlement charge for every 3 promotions the legatus has. This one has 4 promotions, so we can create a settlement here, which we will do. We get to select which tile that goes on. We're going to put it right here on the minor river because, again, fresh water is very important. You do get fresh water if you're adjacent.
So basically, the Roman commander can make towns.
You can't settle on that river tile.
I'm still intrigued as to whether this is going to be any use.
It has to be on
because
the
you're
minor
conquering
river
towns,
not
so
adjacent to that. So we're going to put it right here. We get that, and something has popped up here. A milestone has completed. So let's talk about what milestones are.
So these are the quests.
This is one of those
these
really
are the quests that you're doing throughout the game.
About the ages system, that now we want to recognize your progress in each age, as well as building towards that grand victory at the end of the final age. It
really pays.
And in this
really
one,
pays for you to be doing the quest because you get a lot of bonuses from them.
Legacy path, and if we hop over to that one, you see here on this screen we got the paths. There are 4 paths in every age. They're going to fall into these common families. We can hop over and take a look at the economic one in a minute.
12 towns and cities.
The one we just unlocked
big.
here
Gets big.
is, bam, there you go. So now that we're going to get some bonuses that'll help us develop further.
Yeah, so this track, the legacy path here is to have 12 towns or cities total in your empire, but conquered settlements counts as 2. So you can achieve this entirely peacefully. Rome is actually really, really good at that. They can have all of these different settlements out there and just create it peacefully, but conquering does count double if you take somebody else's. And then you gain progress as you advance in steps down this track. So we've hit this very first step. This does increase age progression. We'll talk about that meter once we return to
so the more quests you do, the faster you end the age.
So we get
that's worth pointing out.
Point.
Every legacy path has a different set of quests, and you can do different things to get to the same results.
Legacy options, and we'll show what those are when we do our age transition. So we get an option to get a military attribute point or an expansionist attribute point. When we continue to progress, we get additional benefits. So even more legacy options will unlock.
So these are the things that improve your leader. This is what gives your leader permanent promotions.
We get a golden age. And that golden age unlocks a golden legacy option in the next age. Only one of those can be selected per age if you were to complete multiple golden ages. And again, we'll take a look at that later. And you get all of the rewards from what you've done.
So that's the first exploration
so
age hint we've had about what the golden ages do.
They're also going to help you in the final age with claiming that ultimate victory, because the more you've invested in any particular legacy over the course of your campaign,
you can still do all of them if you want.
Various bonuses to do things faster towards your victory in that final age. So it's an opportunity to progress on many different paths. You can pivot your legacy from the one that you want to prioritize in one age or the next, but you may also choose to double down. So it's a nice strategic option for where am I going, and they're all geared towards that age.
Right. This stuff is going to be different in
these are the codexes.
This
is like great works of writing, but they give science instead of culture, which is interesting.
Yeah. So exactly. Like codices in my empire is incredibly important in the Antiquity age. That's when these, like you talked about earlier, there was a lot of stuff being explored and written that were enshrining it.
This
in
is the economic.
Ages, we're going to care about different things. And in this one, built Silk Roads, very evocative of antiquity, of people bringing those resources across, getting those resources assigned to my settlements.
7 wonders isn't too bad, by the way, when you see how many wonders there are. It's a lot of wonders.
I don't know if we'll talk about it yet or not, or maybe in the
but they're
future,
supposed to be difficult. You don't have to get to the end.
Economic victory is a very different gameplay.
So we have a lot of questions coming in about religion. and how religion plays
Religion.
on this. And I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later on the stream, but
Yeah.
you want to touch about
So in Antiquity, we do have pantheons, and we are going to show those off later on.
Pantheons in Antiquity.
And religion itself does make an appearance in the game. It's featured more heavily in the Exploration Age. And as we said, that the
That's what
legacy
we thought.
paths do change by age, so what these look like in Exploration are different.
That's
But
what we
we'll
thought,
dive
religion and
into
exploration.
the details on all of that, I think, at a later time.
And I think one of the reasons why religion plays more of a role in exploration is because this kind of fits more the historical model. Whereas, in what we normally think of as the Antiquity era, many of the world religions that we know now were founded. Some were still yet to come about. They became such a large and grand political force when you think about the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages or the expansion of the caliphates in the
they will
Middle
try
Ages as well.
and
this is
give
a
a theme
a
to
story for a
religion
later
popping
time.
up in Exploration Age. We had this conversation.
All right, so I
in
promised we would
Baltimore.
get back to this.
It's an interesting choice,
settlement
but it seems like it
limit
is an
question,
exploration.
and we're going to do that right now because we saw in the legacy path that in order to win the military legacy, you have to have 12 settlements. Captured settlements count double, but if you were to do this completely naturally without capturing anything, as I said, you can do. It is possible even though you have a settlement limit. We can see up here, we are now, after settling this town, we are now at 6 out of 5 settlement limit.
So he's now
We've
taking a
exceeded
happiness
our
penalty
settlement
because he's
limit.
gone one over.
This is a soft limit. You can have any number of cities that you want to.
So I was
As
always
much
riding
space as
one
there
or
is on
two
the map,
over and it was
you
fine.
can only settle.
It was absolutely fine.
You have to have 3 tiles in between each settlement, so you can't be right up, 2 tiles away from something else, just like in Civ 6. You have to maintain that distance. But as much space as there is, you can have as many settlements as you want. For every single settlement that you exceed your limit, as we can see right here, you do get a -5 happiness penalty in all your settlements.
So it stacks
Settlement
pretty heavily.
happiness is tracked individually.
This is like
So we
Civ
can see
5.
here
This feels
that
a lot like
settlement
Civ 5.
is now unhappy. But if we look at some of our others, they might still be happy. And we can see that our total happiness yield is still positive. So we have some wiggle room. This settlement might not be doing so great, but our empire is still doing fine. And as we said before, this total happiness number is being deposited towards our celebrations. We want to try to maintain that. That'll get us, that's how we get more social policy slots, is every celebration you unlock, you get a new social policy slot.
In addition to choosing the bonus of how you want to
addition to the
celebrate.
celebration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So there's both the temporary bonus of the celebration itself and then the unlocking that you can use that policy however you want to
Right.
as you go throughout the rest of the age.
Yes.
So happiness basically is like
happens
Civ 5 Golden
here
Ages.
is,
It's the best way to think about it.
The settlement limit we can exceed. We are penalizing ourselves, but we are adding all of the tiles that this settlement is going to gain, all of the yields that's going, still goes into our
City
empire.
slots are all
That
over the
still
place.
Matters. It's still
Mostly in the
helpful.
civic tree. But there are also
what we
the
do
tech
have
tree
is
and
a
on wonders
difference
as well.
between wide versus tall gameplay as a result, and that means something different in Civ 7. You can have a wide empire within your settlement limit. You can have a wide empire that greatly exceeds your settlement limit. You can have a tall empire that exceeds your settlement limit. Tall really here is about having those towns that are feeding a couple of cities, and that comes down to specialists, which we're going to see here.
Well, let's do that.
There you go.
Yeah, let's
Specialists
think
are
this
really
through, and
important.
we
You'll
gotta
start to see some big
taking over
yields
a
now.
city,
We
too.
will take over a city here. So we have this growth event, and we have unlocked the ability to add specialists. Earlier, our urban tiles were red, and you said we're going to come back to
Basically,
that.
when you get a
Now they are blue
population,
because we can place a specialist.
either you improve a
When we
tile and
place
get
a
loads of
specialist
yield,
down, it adds a
or you put a
base of
specialist down
2
onto an urban
science
tile,
and 2 culture,
and you get
with a
science
penalty
and
of
culture.
2 food and 2 happiness.
So this is a great way to, if I don't want to go wide or if I've gone as wide as I can enhance my yield either in a different direction or whatever, without necessarily needing more territory.
Yes.
So.
And the more towns you have, the more food is being funneled into your cities, the taller that they will become.
Excellent. Well, let's
So
get,
yeah,
let's
but
get
the
out to
city
that
versus
combat
town
here.
mechanic
So
is
we'll
going to
go
be
ahead and
really
plop this down on the
interesting.
one
But
that
it
has
seemed
the
to
most
me
yields.
to get some
like the more
bonuses. They are getting
specialists you have, the
bonuses,
better.
Cs and wonders.
Yeah, they boost your adjacencies. So now that we've
Alright.
placed a specialist, we're going to come up and we are going to start our combat. So up here we are ready to attack Aksum, our neighbor here, led by Amina. And we have a legatus with 5 promotions, 5 levels that is ready
Wow.
to start attacking.
Yeah, why don't you go through that? We can start talking about this stuff because a lot of the turn-by-turn combat is going to feel really familiar, but here, declaring war is really interesting. You'll notice that we don't have a negative relationship with her, but we can still declare a war. In this case,
this
it's
is
a
where the
surprise war. It
war
costs no influence.
penalties
but we're gonna
come in
have
with
some
surprise
penalties in
wars.
that combat because it's some war weariness, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and declare that surprise war on Amina.
So Amina here is speaking Hausa. She is from the opposite side
the
of the
more
continent
you
as Aksum.
taunt
Aksum's on
and
the Red Sea,
denounce
and Hausa land
and
is in
put sanctions,
and she's
the
also
better. Like, did you see that?
District
All
from
of the
Aksum
legions
about
just
1,000
appearing
years.
now.
But one thing I really do love hearing in Civ games is that is the languages, and so that's when the first time I've really heard Hausa.
It's always been one of the most exciting parts to hear something that I'd never heard before come to life. You know, we get so many amazing performers around the world.
This is
and
now
getting to
moving
see
the
them-
leader behind
now
the
both
scenes.
leaders interacting with each other. It just brings the whole system to.
And the leader
to
can
life
now
in a way
walk
I
on the
haven't felt
tiles
before
as well.
when either declaring war or hopefully making friends. But
And you can see there's a lot of flanking
Carl's
going
playing,
on here.
So we know where this is going.
all right, he's going to attack a commander here, and someone who's got a few units packed up. But it is a lower level commander, so I'm confident in Carl's abilities.
Yeah, so it does have a whole bunch of units, and we can attack it anyway. And the reason we can do that is because these units were able to move immediately after unpacking. Normally they cannot. I gave this particular commander, this Legatus, a promotion.
Oh, so this
that
is a
lets our units
very
move
promoted
immediately,
unit
but
with
the
logistics
commander's
promotions. Keep that
movement
in
is now
mind. Normally you
consumed by
don't move
unpacking all of these
immediately
units.
after appearing. This is
And we're gonna go
the
ahead and start
surprise
attacking.
leader.
We can see that the combat animations continue to play as this as the turn progresses, and that does matter for the orientation of the units. We do get flanking bonuses.
He's getting
from doing
huge
attacks
flanking
like this.
bonuses, and his
And we
legion have just
defeated
killed
this
very
commander
quickly.
That has unpacked all of the units around it. These are now injured, so they all have damage to their health bars, and that's because we defeated the commander that they were packed.
So those units weren't unpacked from their leader. The leader died, the commander
military
died, and now they
ability
take
there for
a
now.
hit.
So we'll grow another city, get through.
The one thing I would say about the frame rates drop,
I know a lot of people on chat have been asking about
don't worry about that too
naval
much.
combat. That's been a big
This is a
question, and we're definitely gonna get
Temporary
to that more
system
for the
streamed, and I'm
exploration
streaming through a
age,
stream,
but
you know?
Do we have anything that
Don't
you'd
worry
like to
about
speak
that.
to on that?
Yeah, so there is still naval combat that you can engage in Antiquity, but because Antiquity was much more about, in a lot of ways, smaller areas, not as much naval power, that was something that we left for the exploration age. So you're going to be along the coast, you'll have some ships that can go out there, but it's most of your confrontations early on are going to be on the land or supported.
So
navally.
Navy very
But
much
there's
is more
always
of an
that surprise
exploration
attack of
area
seeing
thing.
a ship you
Interesting
didn't
that they're
expect,
making that
coming up a
separation.
navigable
Very interesting.
river, and that can certainly surprise.
You can still get your Salamas.
Oh, hi, Bez.
I think
Hi, Bez.
Yeah, I think right now we're very much in a land-based
Situation.
Yeah,
I agree.
But a different map might.
See, guys, so he's got 84 influence.
So we do have a diplomatic.
He can
action
either
that was
just
proposed to us
take
here, so
2
we get
culture
this
per
option
turn,
to
or he can
support,
boost it
accept, or
and take
reject,
6 per turn.
as we were discussing earlier, and we can see that this either costs us influence to support or to reject, but accepting is free. I like culture. We have plenty of influence to use here, so we're going to support this. While we're here over the Egyptian city, let's take a look at what that looks like. We can see that the buildings here
the AI
are
playing
completely
here?
different from ours. The architectural style is different for each civ. And we also have
Navy
a lot of
is
other things
in
going on
ancient
the
era.
city
Okay, it is in
itself.
ancient
So
era,
over
but it's
here
just
we
a little
have the Egyptian
simplified. It's
quarter. This is the
quateremes and
necropolis.
galleys, just like in Civ
And we
5
have
and
a
Civ
whole
6.
bunch of
So
wonders
it
here
is
the
in.
background.
What I'm saying is that
she's,
Navy is much more
supported her city with
expanded
those
in
city
exploration.
walls.
That's what it
She
seems
has.
to be.
Yeah, it's excellent.
And the last thing we have to do is our merchant.
So I mean,
this
Punic
goes back to
Wars
that
is very
Silk Road
possible because
victory
galleys
we
are
were
all there
talking
and they
about
still
before.
ram into each other. The
Merchants
ancient era
gather
Navy is
trade
absolutely
or
still
gather
there, don't
resources
worry.
from other settlements, other city civilization settlements. You can't trade with your own settlements. And all we're gathering here are those resources. So
This is
we're gonna
trade
pick
routes.
the city that's within range. These are out of range. the city within range that has the most resources, that's this one here.
And we can see we have a limit of trade routes to the different ones. So
Yes.
Obviously Ashoka, we've got 2. We already
I'm
have 1 in
intrigued to see how
progress,
much this is fleshed
but,
out
we have
since
a
I
second
saw
one
it.
We can do in this one because we've advanced our relationship. We could trade with Hatshepsut, or we could
So we
trade
get
with one
all of the
those independent
resources from a
powers.
city, from setting the
So,
trade route up, but we
Carlos
give them gold.
selected to see
So
where
it's
they
kind
are
of,
on the
there
map,
is an
'cause
advantage
we
to having
now
trade
have
route
to
to
move
view.
our merchant to that location and build the trade route from there. Once we get them there, it's an immediate connection, but it's this really interesting thing where now it's not just about the merchant going there automatically. It's much more about me watching. It can be about watching the merchant. You could have people attack and not let you get
Feels
access
like
to those
the
resources.
movement has been
by taking out the
streamlined a
merchants
little bit
before
on
they even get
merchants
to
since I played it, which is
an
good.
opponent's city.
That does
And
seem
once the
good.
trader is established, you can still pillage it if you're at war.
Exactly. Why don't we take a quick moment too? Now that we've accessed the
No internal trade routes,
actually,
no.
we haven't gotten
That's
to that.
basically
there yet.
towns. Towns do that automatically.
I just want. Can you take us over to the unit there, the elephant?
Oh, yes.
So what I really like as well is just how different a lot of the units look from each other. You know, this is
The models are cool. The
settler
map is very
for
pretty.
Maurya.
Really
You know,
pretty.
your Roman settler looks very different.
That's a great point. We have a lot. Our unit team has done an incredible job of. Not only do we have the cultural variety in our city sets, and our unique units.
Yeah.
We also have just varied units. It may be the same warrior in one civ and another, but it's going to look different.
Yeah.
And I think it's just exciting to see that all come to life.
Yeah.
Roads
Not
appear
only,
automatically. Roads just
was that the
appear.
unique settler for Maurya, but we were also able to see there.
Look
that
at the production of this city now. It just spits things out.
A barracks here. We were also able to see that unit got attacked,
Yep.
and it defended itself.
I think it was a naval attack.
It was a naval attack, but the unit had its own health bar. Here's that, not war weariness. There it is. War weariness, as you mentioned earlier, that's because we had a surprise war. But that settler unit defended itself. Settlers no longer need to be escorted. They now have a defensive strength. They can't attack, but they can defend. And so they are not instantly captured when they're attacked by a
I love the
hostile
war
unit. Instead,
animations
have
now.
health
They look
bar
really
and
cool.
defeated.
They do look very cool.
So I have our legatus here, and I have a bunch of units around it, and we're going to use one of these unique actions down here. So we have a couple of different things. These are orders for groups of units. This allows you to use your commander to manage your field of units much more efficiently, and their bonuses for doing so. It consumes the commander's movement, and any units that execute the
So these are
order
commander moves.
consume their movement. If not all units get to participate in the order, their unit or their movement is not consumed. So an example of that, I'm going to have all of my ranged units do a focus fire on this warrior up here. They will get a +1 combat strength to each unit that participates. If the warrior is defeated with, say, one archer attack and the other one doesn't get to attack, that archer will still have his unit movement
Interesting. So
available
this-
and can still do an attack.
This is quite cool.
Excellent.
So you just press a button and your commander gets all of the units to just fire.
The Saxy game
That's
from
very
YouTube,
cool.
By the way, asks if commanders have replaced great generals.
They have. Yes.
But they're so much cooler.
They are
But
way
they're so much cooler.
They do have similar abilities to some great general abilities.
Carl, move your general
We're not gonna
forward.
go
Move
into
the
what those
commander
are at this
forward.
time, but they do have some things that overlap that function.
Do you see how
Carl,
powerful
did you
Legion
enhance
are, by
that
the way?
unit
Legion are
radio so you could
terrifying
get
in
to
Civ
moving
7. I
forgot
love
to
them
move
so
forward, you're
much.
right. This
Come
was,
on, Carl.
This was suboptimal play on my part.
Very good. He said
I am
it. He
being
should have pushed
distracted
that
with
forward.
questions
Come on.
That is fair.
So when we founded this settlement down here, we did get a free Legion. That's because of one of those civic unlocks that we have from our unique Roman tree. We're going to go ahead and immediately pack this into the commander that we had create that settlement, and we're going to start moving this guy up. I had a
So commanders
maneuver
move a
promotion
lot
in this
faster
commander that allows
than
us to
units, a
ignore
lot
the
faster. So
movement
you can
and
scoop them to
terrain.
the front line
So we can
really
move
quickly.
all the way up here,
Really
and
quickly.
we can watch this commander march, and you can see all of the units that are packed into that commander. So here we have a legion, and an archer. This changes dynamically based on the units that are packed in there, and you're able to assess the size of a force before you engage with it based on the units that
Yeah,
are around.
visually
that
as well as through the UI. Yeah.
Just quickly, all civilian
And that
units now have
commander's,
health. Settlers,
you know,
merchants,
three
they all
are
have health. You have to
existing
kill
in one
them.
tile.
Yes.
They don't fight
There are-
back.
there are
The
four
packed
units.
army
Not
is-
all
it's
units have
a-
ranged
it's a more
attacks,
efficient
no.
way to move
Some
across
units
the
do,
map,
some don't.
Both in terms of space as well as off, especially with the upgrade that Carl's put on it, in number of turns as well.
Yeah.
Not when
And
there is
yeah,
nothing
when you
more
have
to
a unit packed into a commander, the commander's movement actually increases. So it moves even farther when you are grouped up like that, to really encourage you to use them to move.
Oh, interesting.
Across the map.
I didn't realize the
Now,
commander actually got
we got so many
faster when
things
they're
to talk
grouped
about
up.
here. We're getting
They get
faster as we
even
go.
quicker in grouped
I
up
do want
mode.
to touch
Love
on
it.
masteries. We can see this right here.
Here's the
that,
tech tree. Here's the
we've
tech
got
tree.
our age-specific tech tree that we're looking at. Obviously, we're pretty far in. We've unlocked a lot of things here. But you see under a few of these techs, we have a mastery. And that's basically an indicator of the depth that the civilization would go to pursue one particular technology, as well as unlocking new things. I think
Basically,
we
you
got a
can
bug going on
progress
right
down
now,
the
but,
tree, or you can
it's
specialize
letting
in
us,
what you've already got to make it
develop
better.
further in one concept, but it doesn't unlock anything further in the tree. It's just a way of going deeper in that concept, or I could choose to move on. So it's not as many gates without.
They're definitely
removing
being cautious
complexity
and showing
from the
too much
choice.
about that. Very interesting. What would you see?
The question about great generals as well has also gotten our chat just talking about great people in general. Can we kind of speak to how that's taken shape in the game?
Great people are now unique to each, or to certain civs.
So
we're
certain
able
civs
to
get
see
great
that,
people,
with Egypt.
certain
We have
civs
game
don't.
Guides up on our website, civilization.com, and we can see on there's a list of Egyptian great people. So great people are no longer a global resource that other civilizations compete with. Oh, this guy is hurting. We're gonna pull that legion back. They're no longer a global resource. Instead, they are on a civ by civ basis.
Carl, I really appreciate your ability to eloquently answer questions and fight a war.
I do my best, as we have already seen with the positioning of the commander.
Yeah,
it doesn't always work out.
Yeah. He needs to learn the stream. There's a streamer in Carl. There's a streamer in Carl. He can talk and fight. It's
Yes,
fine.
you are correct. This legion is pretty far forward and is very hurt. So we're going to pillage this tile, which will allow us to heal.
There you go. Pillaging is still a thing.
Just to clarify,
You can heal
on
with
the,
pillaging.
Great people bit. It's not just Egypt that gets unique great
Correct.
people. There's,
It's not just
some
Egypt,
other-
yeah,
There
yeah.
are others. Which ones they are, we're
Which ones they
not
are
ready
is-
to talk about yet.
That's a big so KG. Love it.
So like civs have their own unique great people, do all civs have 2 buildings unique to them as well? That's been a question from chat.
That's a great question. The answer is no.
Yes,
Some
we saw this.
civilizations have unique buildings, in which case they do have 2 of them, and a unique quarter when you combine them. Other civilizations have a unique tile improvement. Now, the way that works is a little bit different from those standard tile improvements like the woodcutter and the farm and the plantations that we've already seen. Instead, when you have a unique tile improvement, it has to be built on top of an existing tile improvement, because you have to have a population there. And so you place down your farm, let's say, and then you are able to build your unique tile improvement with production on top of that existing tile improvement, replacing
So
it.
there is
However,
a slight
it
difference
does
here. Some
not
civs have
replace
buildings,
that previous
some
tile
civs have improvements.
yields.
Improvements need to be
Instead,
built
it just
with
adds to
production.
them. And you'll see that in the descriptions for those tile improvements.
Aksum
Any
had an
buildings you
improvement,
have
for
that
instance.
enhance it, a warehouse building such as the granary says on it that it adds to farms, that does not get removed either. So if you are building a unique tile improvement on top of a farm, you keep the farm yield, you keep your granary yield, it's just giving you more.
It's additive.
It's additive.
Yeah.
Do you see how useful
think,
that city in the
I wanna
snow
make sure
was,
we-
by the way? Desert
Carl's flying
cities,
through
snow
it pretty quick.
cities,
I'm sure people are gonna,
absolutely still
pause
worth
through and
building.
Find all the juicy bits
Which is
that we're not quite
interesting.
talking about. I know we want to get this city captured.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through here.
We're getting so this is great. I wanted to get to this real quick. We'll pause
Oh,
for
this
just a
looks a
quick
lot
second.
better now. This is a lot
this is
better
one of
than the
those things
screen we
I
saw.
mentioned earlier. Resources are not traded in diplomacy. We now have this resource management, and this is not only the resources I have from
Did you see at the top?
inside my civilization, but
At the
those I've
top,
gotten
we
by
have
building
empire
trade routes
resources, and
with
on the
those other
left,
civs.
we have resources
And,
that go
as
into
you
a
can see
city,
in here,
specifically.
Carl can maybe choose where that salt is going to go, because you now actually
20%
get to
production
assign
towards
them and
units.
get the bonuses based on where you want that. And now that just stacked it. So Rome's yields went up based on the salt that you put in. So you can choose at certain times to move the resources around. Some are going to get better bonuses in cities or towns or your capital. And at the top, we saw our empire level resources, which are going to get affect everywhere all at once. And those don't have to be assigned. You just, once you get them, they're yours as long as you have access to that resource.
Interesting.
I-
So the
I think here,
resources
too,
were
this
still
gives
like
a
that
certain
screen
kind
looked
of
a lot better.
feeling
I like that screen. That was a lot better than the one we saw. It was very, very
Empire,
basic,
that
the one we
you're-
saw.
Yeah.
You've got a broad hinterland that is bringing in things to create a glorious central capital, if you so wish to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's to the earlier question about the economic gameplay. We saw how the Silk Roads, getting those resources, getting access to all those is very evocative.
Be interesting to see if you can capture the
There's
city.
something
They're
really
trying to
exciting on
politely
resources.
tell him to
I
hurry
guess
up.
we're not gonna hold it, so I don't get in trouble. So I guess we're going to keep going through this combat, see if Carl gets there, maybe on the next turn. Otherwise,
I think we're pretty close here.
pretty close. It's probably about time for us to see what's coming in the next era. Or the next
They
age,
maybe
which
want to
we're
roll
gonna,
it forward. They want to roll it
jump
forward.
through,
Come on, Carl.
age
Come on,
transition. We have two
barbarian.
screens to show you what
Charge.
that's
The
like.
Legion must go forward. Don't
But
change your
right
policies,
now,
Carl. Don't do it.
Before we do that, Carl, you can go. You can
Yeah,
just keep
so
going.
we've unlocked the last unique civic to Rome, which is Senatus Populosque Romanus, which is the Senate and people of Rome. This gives us a series of unique benefits. We get an additional social policy slot. We increase our settlement limit, and we are now back at 6 out of 6. We will go over that again when we capture this settlement here in a moment. We get a tradition. We talked about this momentarily earlier. Traditions
Yeah,
are
this
social
is all
policies
fine.
that
This
are
is all fine,
unique
Carl. We want to
that
see you charge the
civilization.
Legion forward
We'll
into the
see more on
city.
that at age transition.
I'm actually going to slot this right away, so we'll see that right now
Okay.
here in a second. And our wonder is available in our unique.
There's the
civic
Colosseum.
trait.
So this is
Every
earlier
civ has an
unlock for
associated
Rome on Colosseum.
wonder.
Anyone can get it.
This does appear
but it's unlocked
in
earlier.
either the normal tech tree or the normal civic tree, but it also appears in that civ's civic tree. So they have a different route to it that might allow them to access it earlier or in a different way, and then they can start building it earlier and potentially faster.
All right. Unfortunately, we're going to come up against time on this.
Yeah,
one.
come on,
So,
Carl. You're taking too
so
long.
what would happen if we were able to capture that city?
So if we were able to capture that city, it would join our empire. It would exceed our settlement limit, which is fine. We would get a happiness penalty, but that's okay. But we would then control that city. We could choose whether to raise it, which will destroy it over a couple of turns, or we can choose to keep it. And if we were to keep it, it then has an occupation penalty, and we are able to improve it and build in it as normal. It becomes a town when we capture it.
You see his town.
In our
Yeah.
demo at Gamescom, we gave the audience the option of keeping or raising the city, and most of the audiences chose to burn it to the ground.
I think there's one last thing we want to talk about, which was the crisis system, which I know there's been a lot of questions around.
The crisis system. Here we go.
you
This is
saw
interesting.
As Carl loaded us into that later game, that the age progress had moved up. That happens as we complete our legacy, those checkpoints that we looked at.
Yep.
It happens as we get through every turn. There's a little bit of progress. There's a few other things that you can do to sort of move that meter up. As it gets pretty high up, the crisis system comes online, which is now you're not just battling your opponents, racing for the end, becoming the best, but the world is now set upon you. There's challenges from outside that you have to react to. Now, depending
Basically,
on
you pick
which
your own
of the
crisis.
crises comes up,
This is what they're gonna be
and,
saying now.
What age you're in and who you're playing as. Some of them may be a little easier, a little harder, and you have to decide, are we going to power through this, or are we going to pivot and try and go around and get something that maybe we weren't planning? So we'll talk more about the crisis system, but it is that extra spice that comes.
Basically,
that really
it just
makes,
comes at the end of the
some
age. It's
increased
supposed to
tension and
signify the
excitement
age
at the end.
closing.
I'm not sure what kind of spice you're used to, but
I don't handle spice very well.
yeah,
so.
apparently. But yeah, and it's something where again we're trying to think about at the
Giant
end
crab
of Antiquity
invasion,
era,
yeah.
what are the
That's a
forces? There may
crisis.
be dramatic upheavals in one way or another. Maybe just a change in the fundamental structure
Yeah.
of society. In the see Roma up here. What happens with the Western Empire is you get kind of a regional loyalty starts to manifest. Well, no, it's your area of expertise. but the rise of the vernacular as time moves on, the
Yeah.
rise of local powers.
Yeah, you have. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things that happens with the fall of Rome. There's the outside influences. There's internal corruption.
We're talking about the history of Rome here. Come on, we want to see the exploration age.
That sort of
Ursa's getting impatient.
And as you said, you're
He's getting impatient.
Of the map.
Yeah,
of the
occupation and
world,
raising
different
towns is a little bit
challenges
different.
arise that-
I think it's
that,
more gradual.
Force you to make some really
Gradual
different
over
decisions.
time.
And
The
it's those
multiplayer
things
meta will
that
absolutely
bring
be
us to that
different. They didn't
transition where
want
the
people to
gameplay and
just
history come together,
disintegrate
and we get
cities
to go into the
immediately.
next
So it's
stage.
more
And
like
I
Civ
think at this
5, I
point,
think.
We're going to probably be able to jump you through that age transition. I think Sarah's got a couple of caveats.
Oh, here
to
we
give you
go.
Here.
Here we
Yes,
go.
yes. So we are showing off the age transition. I will say the age transition shows a lot of information. So we have just covered up a few of those spoilers, but we are going to walk through what that looks
They've
like.
covered up spoilers.
And this is the moment that we see right now. This is in-game. The Antiquity Age has ended. That crisis has been the thing that triggered it narratively, but also defined my gameplay experience. And now I'm going to get to move on and get to see a screen that's going to walk me through all of the rewards that I unlocked. And this is giving me, there's a few other tabs.
Oh,
in
they're
here,
going to be so
which we can
cagey
probably
about
talk
this.
about later. But right now you can see because of that legacy progress that we made, we've earned points. We've unlocked new things that's going to sort of allow us to make the choices and the options that we have. After we make this choice, we get to go on and make one of the most exciting choices, which is, who are we going to be?
Oh,
Talk a
Norman,
little bit about what we have
Abbasid,
option-wise here. We're going to
Chola.
pick the Normans.
So
That's
there's
the one option we have
one of the
available.
Indian
At least
picks,
it's
I
not
think.
masked.
Yeah, yeah.
Norman.
I mean, in a normal game, there would be
Norman.
more than just the one
Okay,
option.
okay.
Right.
Yeah, we knew that. We knew that.
But
Abbasid.
because of, secrecy.
And this is a great opportunity
Sneaky.
to talk about
There's a lot
the
of choices
that
here.
are
There's a
here
lot
and
of
why
choices.
The choices are here.
Yeah.
There's
At
a
least,
lot of, in past
16,
games,
I would
obviously,
say,
you just play
based
straight
on the
through.
bar
We
there.
didn't- we
Maybe
didn't have
12?
this choice every time. Now we have this choice every single time. This is a spot where you're going to always pick who are we going to become, what are we going to do with it.
Yeah.
And in this case, we have the Normans. We don't have the Abbasid because it wasn't a natural unlock based on the choices we made.
Right, so at the
in
moment, the
beginning
only
of
choice
gameplay.
they can pick is Norman.
And same thing with Chola, as we can see here. So these
I'm
have a lock
guessing
icon on them. We're not able to
this
select
is not the
them. They are
natural
visible
pick
to
for
us, but
Rome.
We can't pick them.
I'm
because,
guessing,
like you said, we
because
didn't
it's
have
not on
anything
the far
granted
left.
them
I'm
to us
just
through the gameplay.
guessing
Normans
that the
are
one on the
available,
top
so
left
if we
is
were to
probably the
select
normal
that,
choice for
you would
Rome.
then come up and see what they have as part of their civilization kit.
So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what that Norman selection screen would look like for us.
Norman.
And then, Dr. Johnson, what is the connection between the Normans and the Romans here?
What about
what are we talking about?
embarking
Yeah, this
units?
may sound a little bit surprising if you're really
Tower
into
London?
the nitty-gritty progression of cultures in Western
Players
Europe.
Greece, players
It may
Rome,
not
choose
be- okay,
Norman.
so Normans
There's
are way
Greece.
up there
There's
in,
Greece.
in northwestern France, and then they take over England, and we think of the Norman Knights, and we think of the Battle of Hastings being pretty far away from the centers of Roman power.
Well, it means that we're not going to
But
have an England
we're
in the
trying to think
exploration age.
about
England is likely to
links
be
and not necessarily
modern.
the anointed successor of a place, but rather places that were influenced, inflected by this. I think in we had the case of London.
Yes. So London is a city that was founded.
Also,
by
did you see that on the
Rome,
right?
Londinium,
Unlocks
and this was a
French
Roman outpost that
Empire
came
in the
from
modern
town.
age. So Norman seems to want to go
and,
French.
There's a lot of different
Interesting.
layers of history that happen. Like you said, the Normans invade England. They capture London. It becomes a Norman city. And history is built in layers, and London has layers to it. We actually, Ed talks a lot about this. He did a whole presentation at PAX West. We have that video available on our YouTube channel for anybody who's interested in seeing it and learning more details about Ed's vision for that. But it started as Rome. And so even though you mentioned that Normans started in France and then they go to England, and those are different periods in their history. Just as I said earlier, we're looking at Rome as a whole and no longer just a single point. It's we're representing everything in Rome from the 12 Tables, which is the start of their government, to the Senate and people of Rome at the end, the Normans were looking at a variety of different things too. We have France, we have England,
Yeah,
and Rome was in both of those places.
Well, there you go. Look, he pretty much just hinted there
and for
that
the
England
Normans,
and
you know,
France
they
would be
are
choices from Norman. I think he
influenced
probably
there
gave away a little
by-
bit more
by
information
Rome
than he
via
meant to
Gaul,
there.
via this
Norman
long
likely
chain
to go into
of
France or
historical connections
England.
that we're not going to represent,
England, I
because
think, is
to do
100%
so,
going to
you'd
be a
have,
modern
like,
age
15
Civ.
little mini games where suddenly you're playing as Gaul, and then you're playing as like Francia, and then you're playing as this and this and this. This is
broad strokes.
yeah. Let's just take 2 points on this chain.
Yeah.
And again, when we talk about the Normans, do we mean Normandy?
They're
Do we
trying to
mean
defend it there a little bit to say that it's not leaping around all over the place.
The Norman Knights and
That's
William the
interesting.
Conqueror and the Battle
Just
of
a couple of
Hastings, this
choices.
era.
I think we try to represent a little bit of all of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think that this is one of those great moments to talk. Like, I love every time we talk about what civs could lead to what civs.
I'm looking forward to the
there's
mods
so much
about
to
this
unpack
game.
within
There's
that.
going to be
There's
so
much context,
many
there's so much
choices in this
history.
game. I can
And
just see it
obviously
now. It's
history
going to be great.
is, one of those things that we always want to reflect. We always want to make sure that the choices that you've made in one age lead into the other. And we're
French
gonna
and
see some
England
of that,
already
when
confirmed.
we
Yeah,
get back to
yeah,
gameplay.
that's
We'll
fair
see
enough.
The consistencies
Modern
of what
age.
does carry into
All
your,
right, so maybe he
your
didn't reveal as
exploration
much as
civ,
I thought.
that because of the choices, because of the gameplay. And some of that is the direct gameplay on the map. Some of it is also just, like you said, who you were. We were Rome, so this is one of the possible logical choices. We've got one that's hidden on here. That could be a gameplay thing that you could do to unlock this as well. You know, being Rome is not the only way to unlock the Normans. You could do it via gameplay, which you're hiding, or Greece.
Right, oh my gosh, that brings us to our Civ reveal, which is extremely exciting. We are revealing Greece today on stream, and we're going to be adding a game guide to the Civilization website. So
There you go.
definitely check that out.
Greece confirmed.
And, I know that a lot
And
of people wanted to know a little
information
bit
will be
more about
dropped
the icon in the
pretty
upper
soon.
corner.
There you
I was
go.
supposed
So
to
we're going to
mention
go and
that
have a look
earlier.
at Greece in a second.
We're going to
Well,
talk
after
a
the
little bit more.
stream.
There's a lot of exciting player level developments and things that we're going to be able to expand on in future live streams.
Yes.
All right. Well, we are already hauling along pretty well, but we did want to have a little bit of time to play as Maurya. So are you ready for that, Carl?
I think we need to actually
They're
check
not
out
going to
Rome
show
in
us
the
anything
exploration
really
age.
in the
Okay,
exploration
okay.
age. I wanted to
Sounds
see what the
good.
map
Sounds
looked
even
like.
better.
Running full
Even
speed.
better.
I wanted to see what the map was going to look like. They're going to dive into another Antiquity game, I think.
Here, we have done our age transition, and we have selected Normans. So this is Rome as Augustus transitioned into the Norman civilization. In
Okay,
the
so this
very
is
first
Norman.
turn of exploration here. And we can see that this is the same Rome that we were just playing as. This is the same city, it's the same map. We have just moved
The
forward
yields
in
on the
time.
top haven't changed.
You can even see we've still got the
400.
wonders that we built.
We have our wonders.
unique
See,
quarters.
okay.
Our Roman Forum is still here. Our palace has changed. It's now a Norman palace. Let's
Can you push in a
zoom
little bit
Yeah,
more?
we'll
Yeah, and we
zoom
had-
in here. And we can
Okay,
see
so
that these
it's definitely
buildings, the
changed all a little
population
bit.
buildings that fill out the districts here have changed architectural style as well.
All
But
of the old buildings
other
are still
buildings
there.
here are those
They haven't
Roman
gone.
Antiquity buildings, and those are still present. We get to keep all of this stuff as we move forward. If we look at some of our other settlements up here, we do have the settlements that we captured, all the towns that we founded. Those are still
Okay, this
here.
is
We're at 8
interesting.
out of
So he
8
does.
settlements.
He has
and we can
8 of
even
8
see
at
that
the
we have
moment.
some of the
It's about
tile
30
improvements that
science,
Aksum gets
70
because
culture.
They had built them while
Those
we
are
were
rookie
still
numbers.
attacking this settlement, and we captured that. We get to keep those ourselves, and they transition with us. We still have them in the exploration age. And our relationships are still here. That's still part of it. It carries forward.
Yeah, and there's a few other things we'll get to go through as we go through the rest of this turn, but it's just like basking in sort of like, oh, this is the same game, right? This is not, I didn't reset. I had a few things sort of change, a few things.
you see
level
how
out
much bigger
to
the
keep
map is
world,
there?
Interesting and challenging, but at the same time, I won't walk in and be like, wait, what's going on? Or I don't know what this world is.
And
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think also in looking at any one of these cities, too, you kind of can see the possibilities of history. So you came into to Rome via one link, or you came into the Normans via one link. You could have taken a different link in a different way, and I think that is also the case. You know, speaking as a
Doesn't look
as
like
a
the names
historian
have
here,
changed
too,
on
is
the
that when you look
cities,
back,
no.
there is
No,
no
they're all still the
one
same.
destiny to which we are inevitably moved forward, nor is there one origin that we come from. We are always of multiple places
Yes.
and destined
Yes.
for someplace uncertain.
And I think in that dynamism of, how many things we could be made of, we have the age transition choices.
We do have
we
that.
get to
There's,
show
there's
off.
two
Oh,
last things. I'm
Come on,
jumping
Carl.
back to our gameplay,
go,
pulling
go,
you
go.
guys back in here. There are other things besides just the buildings that we have on the map that do carry forward as part of this transition. We can see
So
here
you can
is-
see the
this is
unique stuff.
commander that we had. Our other one is in one of our other settlements here. Our promoted commanders carry forward. It's no longer the Roman unique one. It's now a basic one because it's not a Roman unique unit, but it has all the promotions.
It's a
that it
Norman
had.
commander,
It's
and
now a Norman
they don't
commander.
have a unique commander. Yeah.
But it still has all the promotions that it had. And lastly, we still have those unique traditions that.
So you keep
we
the
were
traditions
talking
from
about
your
earlier.
previous
This
civs,
part
so
of our
there is a
Roman
lot of
identity.
stuff that
We
stacks
still
there.
have these. We're still able to slot them as our social policies, and this continues to stack as we go forward. So as we play through an entire campaign, we're able to layer our civilization choices together to get the infrastructure added together.
So this is really interesting. You'll be able to build some amazing government policies by picking who you go
I think it's a
civ
great
by
point
civ
to call
to.
these out, because in the last age we had the civics for the Antiquity Age, and we had the Roman civics that we could unlock traditions with. Now we have the exploration civic tree that everyone has the same access to, but now we have the Norman specific civic tree, so we can unlock Norman traditions to
This is
carry
good, but
forward
we
as
want to
go
see
into
the
next
trees.
age.
Show us
Let's
the
go ahead and
trees.
do that age transition.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and start the exploration age, and at the very beginning we get to spend those legacy points on the things that we unlocked as part of the legacy paths that we completed in the previous age. So again, all of this is a result of the progress that we had made. And the things
Interesting.
we have available to choose here are because of the choices that we had achieved.
So basically,
these
the
are the
better you do
points
in the
that we
previous
unlock,
age, the more
yes,
bonuses
from
you
going
get in the
through
next
the
stage.
legacy
That's
path.
So we have our
clever.
4 legacy path points, and then we do have 1 wild point here, and we can spend these on a variety of different types of legacy perks. Here we have our golden age for the culture. We also have our golden age for the economic legacy path. We completed both of those all the way to the
Right.
very
So
end.
this is a great point. Of our legacy paths are not exclusive. You can complete multiple. You can pursue.
Oh,
as many
interesting.
as you
All of your
want, and
cities
you're
from the
not
previous
in
age
direct
remain
competition
cities.
with each other. You just want to get as far and as much as you can.
So it looks like a lot
And
of cities
now
will
we
drop
have
to
more
towns. We
options
kind
to
of
choose from, which
theorized that
means
was going to
we can
happen, but that
choose to
explains it a lot
approach
more
the exploration
clearly.
age differently than we maybe could have had we not gotten as many legacy points completed.
That said, you can only have 1 golden age perk.
Right.
So we've unlocked 2.
So it looks
I
like
selected the Silk Roads one. We do
You're
not get Wonders of the
either
Ancient World.
giving
That is now
yourself
grayed
map
out as
bonuses or civ bonuses, or you're
And I did
improving
see
your
a
leader.
question
That
from
seems to be
chat
the things
regarding
that you're
golden
doing.
ages. Are there dark ages as well? Is that something we'll see?
There are dark ages as well. We're not revealing what those details are.
Well, there are
but if
dark
you do
ages,
not
okay.
complete any progress in a legacy path, you do get a dark age perk that you can choose,
Oh.
which changes your
So you
gameplay a
can
significant
negate
amount
and
in a
just
really
completely
interesting
ignore a
way.
victory path and go for a
Those
dark
are
age.
different for every single
Interesting.
legacy path.
And I think one of my favorite things to point out here is just the option to change your capital, which I think is.
And
is-
that's free.
There you go.
And that's free, yeah. So you can decide.
Change
exploration age,
capital.
we'll dive deeper
Change
into future
capital
live
is
streams,
available.
and you'll understand why you want to do that. But as I talked about earlier, you've got the idea that there's going to be some more naval gameplay. So you might have been a landlocked
There you
civilization
go.
before, or at
So
least
you
land
can
capital, and
change
now
the
you say, well, we're gonna
capital
move our
now.
capital over to the
People
coast
wondered if
because
you'd
we're
be
gonna
able
people
to.
that go out and look
Now
across
you
the
can.
sea to see what's next. And that can be a really big pivot from someone who is maybe focused on conquest just within their borders. So,
Absolutely. And I just selected that card, or that perk. So as we advance here, we can see that we still have Roma, but Roma is no longer a capital.
There you
This
go.
city has been renamed, and our palace is now here. This is our new capital location.
Obviously, so much more we could deep dive going through the exploration age, but today we're trying to focus on antiquity and age transition. I think we got through that. We're going to go ahead and jump over and take a look at another antiquity situation. Andrew, you want to tell us who we're going to see?
Sure. We're going Maurya now?
We are.
Okay. So now we're gonna move back. We saw
Interesting.
Ashoka
Some very
briefly in
cool
in
information
our
there.
Roman playthrough. Now we're going to be Ashoka here, and we're gonna look at our Maurya India. And so here is a case where we have a kind of through line, more or less.
So one form of India going to
within
another form of India.
from
So this is
Maurya
kind of
to
the
Chola
change
to Mughal.
that a lot of
Now,
people want to see when
I
you don't
hesitated a little
change
bit saying
civ.
through line because Chola is in a very different part of what is currently India than Maurya was, than the Mughals were based. It is only in retrospect that these places kind of come together as a political unity. But that said, here we are. This is the capital of Pataliputra here, and we've got what I really like. It may be a minor issue for the audience, but for me, looking at the palace there, it took so long to try to get good reference and talking.
The art style is incredible. I'm glad they spent the time making all of these individual models and making all the civs different. I'll give them that. It looks really, really pretty.
It's a
really
mixture
pretty.
Of guesswork and some reference and some archaeology, but I love the amount of work that goes into a lot of these little things. With antiquity stuff, it's going to sometimes be guesswork.
I think it's a great example too. The palace is incredible, but even just looking at the land around it, the
Carl
buildings,
can't help
the
himself.
population centers
He
where
just wants to
people
play.
live,
He's still playing it.
immediately feels very different
Yeah.
than what we had
Absolutely.
when we were playing as Rome in our other game.
Yeah.
And we got Carl exploring the map, finding a couple more of these discoveries, giving us some more choices.
Take damage via scout
I'm
and
not
take
gonna
gold,
give it to
or
you. I'm just
take
gonna
some
put the
happiness and
happiness
trigger a
here. This is heading
celebration.
towards a celebration, and speaking of, we have a celebration available to pick. This will give
We
us a
love
new
the
social
council
policy
day.
slot, as well as allow us to pick one of these 2 bonuses that will last for the next.
So there seem to be
4 turns.
builds,
I am
happiness
going to go
builds,
ahead
that
and
let you
select
rush
food
these
because we're doing
celebrations
early
all the
unit
time.
building still,
So
and
you
I wanna
can
commit to building
basically have
buildings.
huge
Some people
yields
probably have
pumping
noticed, but this
through,
is turn
or
13.
you can just
We're not
avoid
on
them and
turn
go really
1 in
wide. It
this
seems to be the
Antiquity
play.
game, so we already got a few things underway.
We did a little bit of exploring as part of that, and one of the things that we've revealed is this amazing navigable river into a series of lakes that is snaking along into the continent here, and we're going to continue to explore along this shoreline to see how far it goes, what we can uncover. This is definitely going to be a place that we're going to want to settle as we continue to expand.
This has been the kind of thing that when I think about the
Little science rush. There you go. There's
mentality
production and
the
science.
mantra we've
More
had of
happiness towards the next
history's
celebration.
built in layers.
A lot
I
of them
already-
seem early
already
game to
thinking
have
of,
celebration
yes, I want a
boosts.
city
Like a lot of them
on
seem to go that
coast,
way.
So when I get to exploration,
We love the King Day, yeah.
that may become my capital.
Oh, on the Great Lakes
even on a Great Lake, because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, cool. I
Camels
have
are
all the
confirmed,
advantages of
and they're really
being
good.
in the
They're
center of the
really
continent,
good.
as well as the access to the ocean with my naval power.
Here we go. Here's a pantheon. Here's the
So here
pantheon.
we've completed mysticism, and this will give us our choice of pantheon. And Marya's unique ability is that they get to select 2 pantheons. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. We have a whole
Have a
list
look.
of pantheons here to choose
Every
from, and
single
we get to
one
pick
says
2 of these
altar, or most of them do.
Most of
Altar,
these
altar,
require
altar.
that
Just
the
remember
city
that.
has an altar in order to benefit from the bonuses. So we're going to want to make sure to build our altar in this settlement, and that will give us whatever 2 we pick. They
There's
both
some
apply
really
to the
strong
same
ones as
altar.
well. Very strong ones.
There's a ton of different options here. I am going to go with ones that are going to really enhance our
No
on-map
3 settler, by the way.
yields.
No 3
So
settler.
I think I'm going to take Goddess of the Harvest, which is very similar to what a granary does.
That's what I did. I had some
And I'm
crazy
going to
yields.
take God
Absolutely
of the
crazy
Forest, because we
yields.
also have a lot of vegetated tiles here. These are rainforest tiles because it's a tropical biome. They give science as their biome yield. And so by picking those and then we build an altar, we will get all of this yield benefit onto the map. And again, these are called out as a warehouse bonus. And as I was saying with unique tile improvements earlier, these do not get removed when you build your unique tile improvement. So that'll just stay there and continue to stack
Yes,
up.
there's lots
Yeah,
of
I
specific
think this
things.
is a great
But you can
moment to
see,
call
you
back
have
what
to
we
build
talked
the
about
altar to
earlier,
get the
that
bonuses in that
is
city. So your pantheon doesn't
sort
do
of
anything unless you build the altar.
representation of the religion ideas that we see in the Antiquity Age.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we don't have time to go too much farther within that, so we're gonna have to take a rest there. So we did get to see a huge slice of antiquity today, but I do know that we do have some questions from chat that we want to try to answer, just a couple if we can.
Let's see which questions they
We have
pick, eh?
Quite a few questions from chat, and just to preface, if we didn't get to every question today, we are going to have more opportunities for questions in the future. Thank you guys so much for leaving the questions for our devs. I have a few that I've plucked out. The first, I love this question. As devs, how do you pick and choose which civs/leaders will be in the game?
That is, I could probably talk another. Do we have another live stream worth of time? No, it is an amazing collaborative.
No
process
correct answer to
with
this,
our
is
team
there?
internally. there is no one way in which we do it. Sometimes it begins with our narrative team or historians looking at who is important at that time. Sometimes it begins with our designers looking at what is the mechanism that we need to highlight.
Basically,
and we're always looking at the representation.
He's going to give a very long-winded
both for
answer here
portions
as to
of the
how they
world,
pick
for
civs
different
and leaders.
peoples,
It's going to be a
for different
combination of,
identities,
is it cool?
and
Do we
working
have
as a
representation in that
large
part of the
group
map?
with
And
all
how
of our
many people
partners
have we got in a
internally,
certain age?
with our publisher, even
gonna
sometimes reaching
be-
out to external groups to get
It's going to be most
insights
of
and
it.
perspectives that we
I
don't
know.
have.
He gets very excited about
So
this sort of
It
question.
is just it's an exciting, long, huge process to go through that I could do another stream on.
You should do another
Yeah,
stream on
I
it.
think for me, one thing that is important for me, and important for
I love
think,
Andrew.
Civilization
Andrew's so
as
passionate. Look at him.
as a
He
game,
loves it. He
the
absolutely
essence
loves
of
what he does. He's in his
Civilization
dream
is
job.
that it was always
Good on him.
global. It was
Good on
not
him.
a story of, Greek, Egypt turns into Greece, and Greece turns, or like a story of Rome conquering the world. It was always a global perspective, even from the very beginning. And so I think what I sought to bring to things is really looking at, try to take that perspective and see what are the global forces.
It's a very
going
fluffy
on at
answer from a
different
very
points in
passionate
time,
man. I
and
honestly
then
think, yeah,
also
these
what are the
two,
regional forces.
they
So
should
it
do
may
another
be that
stream
this
based
or
on
that
which
power
civs
is
they're going to
not,
pick. I think it's an interesting
influencing
question because I
everything
don't think there's an
around the
answer
globe,
that
but
people are
they
going to
really
like.
are,
There's no correct answer because people are always going to
groundbreaking
feel like
influences
their
within
civ
a
isn't picked or
particular
their leader
area.
isn't picked
There
or
is no definition
there's someone
of what's
better.
important or what's right or what's the best. It is a constant conversation about is it important
There you go.
for
He's
the
just
global, is
literally
it the
just said it,
region,
man.
as you said.
There's
I
no
think
right
that's
answer.
Right.
And I think that what's exciting
they
about
have
the
a
process is we're always learning. as we
terrible
go through
job.
it. Even someone who comes
It's a
in with,
terrible job.
This would be the perfect one because of these reasons, and it's like someone else has another idea, and they're just always ping pong. It's frankly just an exciting conversation to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're definitely excited to show off a lot more of those
Sarah's
civilizations
saying,
and
let's
leaders
move
as
on.
well. We've had quite a few questions about this. Can't pin it down to one user, but a lot of our players want to hear more about the AI. That's definitely a hot topic.
Here we
Hearing about
go.
the
AI
improvements
question.
to AI that have been made. Can we speak to that at all? And can we also speak a little bit to how the AI makes decisions during that transition process too?
I love how everyone looks right at me. Yeah. I've never written a line of code for this game. No. What I can say about that is that there's been a lot of investment in the AI this time. We have a bigger AI team than we ever have had. We have more people involved, and frankly more planning around it earlier on in the process.
They knew it was a problem.
In a lot of ways, it's an increased investment. On top of that, there's been a lot of design changes that allow the AI to focus in on gameplay because we're not talking about the march from the first turn of Antiquity to the end with zero change.
That's a
The
really
AI
interesting
has
point.
clearer objectives, just like the player has clearer objectives.
Smaller windows
within
of the
each
game
age.
make better
so
AI.
we're looking at clearer problem spaces. So from sort of a mechanical stance there, that's a great advantage. On top of that, with these pathways, these historical options, as well as the gameplay options, we are allowed to give the AI a little bit more direction in some of their choices because, well, if you're this leader, you're more likely to pick this civ because it was a historical connection or a regional connection, or because this happened in this age, you've unlocked this, and there's a really good gameplay opportunity for you to take this one. So giving the AI a strong weighting on the choices they make based on those connections has been, at the age transition, has been a really big opportunity that we've tried to capitalize
They sound confident, don't they?
That's really awesome.
They do
lot
sound
of our
confident.
players,
We'll
too, are
see.
wondering
We'll
about
see.
Natural disasters, environmental effects.
Roman
Have you
Holiday
guys
will still
looked
show
at
them
that
up.
at all?
Yeah, we didn't happen to see any of those really pop up here, but they are back. We do have a wide variety of them.
Volcanoes
The
are very
gorgeous,
loud.
The art looks fantastic. But there's, like I said, a big variety. We have volcanoes, we have storms, and those, they will pillage things, they will destroy your buildings, they will damage your units, and then they will deposit a whole bunch of yields on the map. And those are bigger and cooler than they've ever been before. So we're
They're
really
actually
excited to
leaning into them more.
I'll mountain smoke a little.
If you didn't like weather in Civ
And
6,
volcanoes.
you're going
I
to see
saw a
more of
specific
it in
question
Civ
that
7.
Volcanoes made it into the game as well.
They are back.
Awesome, awesome. So a lot of our players talk about tall versus wide gameplay, right?
Yes.
Do you kind of focus on a small amount of cities and really build them up,
the
or
wrong
do you
question
kind of
in this
expand
game.
outward? I'm getting some specific questions about how many tiles can you expand in a city. We can get into the nitty-gritty a little if you're comfortable.
Sure. The number of tiles you can expand is the same as Civ 6. We've not changed the core foundation there.
It's still
We have
three
our,
tiles.
33, 33, 33 rule, where we have 33% of the game that's the same, 33% of the game that's new, and 33% of the game that is iteration and updates. So that 33% of the game that's the same, that includes how the core of a city functions, the tiles that it can work, the range of that. So you're
Basically,
still
they
settling
didn't
city to
rewrite the
city
system.
between
It's the
each
same
city.
system.
There has to be 3 tiles between each, so 4 tiles.
Which is fair,
exactly
which is
apart.
fair.
You're still working out to 3 tiles. You can acquire tiles in your borders farther than that under certain conditions, but you are working the land 3 tiles out.
Yeah.
If you build
So
a massive
you can go
urban
wider, but
sprawl
it's
and
3
you take
tiles
up
is
all
the
of
same
your
limit
urban-
as it was
all
before.
of your rural districts, all of your tile improvements with urban tiles instead, you're not going to be producing from the land in that settlement. You're going to have to support it with towns. That's where that wide versus tall really comes into play here is that town
It's not
and city
a case of
mechanic
how many
and
settlements
how
have you
you're
got. It's going to be
using
how many
specialists.
cities versus
I
towns.
think it's
That's
safe
going to
to
be the
say
wide
that,
versus tall conversation
we've had
now.
Civs where one was favored over the other, but the team has done an incredible job through those systems, like the city limit that you have, the settlement cap, putting penalties in place, happiness, throttling your yields if you're unhappy. So I think it's safe to say both are meant to be viable based on the strategies and how you like to play.
It's a very soft cap.
That's awesome.
The settlement
Can we
cap,
speak at
very
all
soft.
a little bit to the multiplayer experience in Civilization and sort of what
Multiplayer.
that looks like, especially around the Antiquity Age?
Yes, so I think we're going to go a lot more into detail into multiplayer later, but we have revealed
Holding
that
off.
we have how many? What's the player count for Antiquity? Is it 5? I think it's 5. Goes up to a standard size map, and you're all on the same landmass. Just as we've seen in the gameplay here today,
Quite
you're
sad.
all there, and that's
Quite
because
fixed.
later on the world expands, and that's part of the gameplay now.
The world expands.
gets
We
bigger.
need that map expanding.
And we'll go into the details of how that works and why that works at a later date.
And I think
We're
it's
gonna talk about it
relevant
later.
to discuss
Okay.
though that there is a very strong gameplay reason why those numbers are different, because
Yes.
the gameplay changes when you talk about the lands that are far away that you maybe aren't playing with in Antiquity. There's so much that relies on that part of the game to work in a certain way. Obviously, we got some feedback. We're listening. We have some ideas that we're going to look to explore, but we definitely want to make sure we deliver that Antiquity experience so that everyone in the game is playing the right Antiquity experience.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds like
And
they're
then
very much keeping them a bit more separate
more
to me.
specific questions, if you don't mind. I'll just go through 2. Dude with bad jokes on Twitch asks, if you kill a settler, does it die? Do you capture the settler? Does it turn into a worker? What
I
happens?
thought that question might come up. The settler now gets destroyed. You do not capture settlers.
Don't
And of
capture
course, there are no
settlers, they
builders
get
or workers
destroyed.
anymore, so you cannot capture those either. Instead, you're destroying the unit completely.
Got it. And
There you
Sean
go.
Fuzz
Dead.
on YouTube
Permadead.
asks, how are roads built? I saw that come up as well.
It's a great question. Roads are automatic to a certain range. So if you were to settle really, really far apart, I don't remember that range off the top of my head. I think it's 10 tiles. But if you settle really far apart, you will not
Roads
create a
get built
road. If you
immediately.
settle within 10 tiles, you will create a road back to your capital. All roads lead to Rome, as it were. Even if you're not playing as Rome,
Yeah.
the road is
All the
pointing
roads
to
will
your
go to Rome
capital.
eventually.
Then we saw merchants earlier, and we talked about how you move a merchant to a city and create a trade route there. If it is a land trade route, it creates a road for that as well. And then the merchant has an ability
Interesting.
to create a road. So if you have a settlement that does not have a road in between them,
You can still
because
build
the road's going
roads.
to the capital
Roads are
and
still
not to each
buildable.
other, you can use a merchant to create a road there.
Sounds like roads are
Got
going to
it.
be a
Yeah, there are
lot
of
easier to
very
build than they have been
mechanic-specific
previously.
Questions. And one of the things that I just wanted to shout out is it took us, we had a lot of turns in the
Yes, we
Antiquity
did.
Age, and we still, it feels like there's so much more to reveal. So
There is.
we have a lot of live streams coming up. We're going to be diving into the Exploration Age more as well. But it really just goes to show how full I think these ages feel when you play them.
It's a big game.
as well.
Yeah, it felt
Hold us
big.
back.
What's that?
It was hard to hold us back. We want to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to thank you guys for taking time from working
Sounds
on
like
the
they're
game to
wrapping
come
up.
be on the live stream today. So we've been joined today by Andrew Fredrickson, the lead producer of Sid Meier's Civilization 7.
Thank you, Pete.
Dr. Andrew Johnson, the lead historian on Civilization 7. And Carl,
Andrews.
he who is crowned with iron, Harrison.
I have no recognition or title. I had to work on that.
I feel like I have to work on that
Yeah,
too.
we got to step up.
Okay.
Well, I mean, a good one, not just a work one.
Ooh, all right, asking a lot. I want to remind you that you can follow us at civilization.com. There's gameplay guides posted up there. So after today's stream, for example, we'll be adding the gameplay guide to Greece. That's pretty cool. Follow us on our social medias. I know they've been putting them up over the course of the stream at CivGame on Civilization, youtube.com/civilization. Hopefully the stream will get posted to there. But we've got one more thing to share with you before we go today, right, sir?
Yes, yes. And not only that, I want to call out quickly that we have our first developer diary going live on Steam as well. So definitely be sure to check that out.
Developer diaries are a good change.
Overpages
That's a
in
positive
depth,
step.
Written by Ed Beach. So take a look at that. I also, yes, am super excited to reveal our first look of Hatshepsut, which we will show on screen right now.
So the return of the first look videos is going to be fantastic.
There you go. So this is another leader we played at the reveal.
Hatshepsut's glorious reign bolstered trade, infrastructure, and artistic innovation. Her ambition to create a magnificent,
So this is who
wonder-filled empire is rivaled
Bose
by few
played.
others in history.
Potato played.
She accomplished it all by taking advantage of the powerful Nile River, a major influence.
I mean,
in
look
her
at the
leader
map.
Design.
Look how sprawly it is. It's so
As
good.
Hatshepsut, build your cities near navigable rivers for a production boost to buildings and wonders. And be sure to trade for resources to turn your empire into a cultural powerhouse.
She did seem quite powerful, to be fair.
Consider pairing Hatshepsut with her native civ, Egypt,
or the Exploration Age civ, Abbasid, whose cultural and scientific bonuses can amplify the power of your many wonders.
Basically, build
or
on rivers.
choose a different path, all your own. But whatever you build, remember to build something you believe in.
When Petra looks gorgeous there. Did you see huge old Petra? That was cool. Is that it? Are we going to go back to it? Are we done? Feels like it might be done. Well, there you go. Huge Petra anyway, which is interesting. Lots of information we saw that I think we had hinted at, or we had certainly thought about. I don't know. Let's have a look. I'm going to go back. Imagine loving Hatshepsut couldn't be me. Bose, you know that's exactly your new love in this game. Come on. She seemed to play well. The people that played her on the Baltimore trip definitely came away feeling like they played really well. I think it was pretty much everyone played either her or Rome. It was those two. Did you see Abbasid is the new Egypt fellow on Civ? Yes, I think that's what they said. Did we know that before? I think we had heard that, potentially. Or did we hear Songhai? We might have heard Songhai. Not sure. Good point. Right. Let's throw some music back on. Let's do this. Sort myself out. Wow. Lots of information. Lots of information there. Let's go and see if I can find a little bit of a shot of, like, Petra or something. Because there's got to be something here you can pick out. Let's get rid of the sound. Let's bring this up. So, yeah, definitely we can see pyramids in the game. So if I can just play this out a little bit. They did say Songhai. Now, you're absolutely right. They did say Songhai. Let's have a quick look. About 11 civs in Exploration Age. Yeah, so not like a... It's not a huge amount, is it? So there's definitely Petra. What can we see in here? Ah, that's definitely the White Tower. So that's the Tower of London that the Normans bring to the game. So either this is a different civilization, which kind of makes sense. You can see just at the back there that the types of buildings definitely look to be more Norman-like. So this is probably multiple civilizations in the same shot here. And is that over to the left? That appears to be a totally different style of building as well. It's much more like Oriental, potentially. Look at the little camel just hanging out there. Just chilling. Just chilling. Interesting. Very, very interesting, huh? Let's have a look. I'm gonna clock into the chat and see what people are saying. I heard Gaul and Francia before in the conversation might be civs. Yeah, I don't know. They've thrown around a bunch of civs based on like influences or things that could be like this civ or could be like that civ. I honestly don't know whether we can take any of those as guaranteed civs in the game. Until we see it, we've got to probably think, maybe, maybe not. But certainly 11 around the exploration era felt like, I mean, 12, I would say 12 just from the screen that I saw with that sliding bar. It's going to be difficult to like find that exact bit. Go back and see if I can find it. If we can find the shot. Where was it? Somewhere along here, wasn't that? Actually picking the... There was a bar on the right that I thought was a bit of a giveaway. Was it before this? It was its own separate screen, wasn't it? Oh, here it was. Here it was. So, yeah, look at the size of that bar on the right-hand side. Let me move my face so you can see it. Look at that. That indicates that we've got one more row. One more row of things below this. This is either going to be 12 or, as people have said, 11 based on the number of points down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Saying that, though, it could just have more to the right, but it does seem to be a very specific amount, doesn't it? Doesn't it? So here we go. Right. Sarah, you might actually have this in chat. I'm sure Egypt unlocks Songhai and Hatshepsut, I cannot say that, unlocks Abbasid. Yeah. So we know that leaders have their own unique path. And we know that that may not necessarily be the same as the civilization path. So there's going to be multiple historical paths. You could actually have that in one. It's 9 to 12, yeah. 9 to 12. I thought 12 based on the amount of bars. It's this little bit with 11 options. That definitely felt like a bit of a... I think 11 is probably what they've loaded into the game at the moment, definitely. That's Carl. Hello, Carl. Well done on the stream. See, I thought you popping up here would mean that you weren't doing it. There you are, just like casually on your phone getting ready to do. How was the stream? If you're hanging around for a second, was it behind the scenes? Did it all go well? Was the tech good? I know sometimes nerves can get to people, but it seemed pretty smooth. It seemed very smooth. Hopefully it all went as you hoped. Oh, Carl was so sneaky. It seems to be a consistent thing about Carl being able to just drop in and pretend that one thing is happening and then totally pull the wool over my eyes. I have a Carl weakness when it comes to insight. Went very well, yes. Thanks everyone for watching. Oh, it was our pleasure. What's all this, Carl? What's all this soon to be revealed, eh? You're causing me to engage in wild speculation about your game, given your penchant for just hiding things. Revealing, your trickle revealing. Can I just say, Carl, it was very, very cute watching you try and keep the stream together and resist the urge to just keep playing optimally. Because I could see you kept going down to the bottom right of the screen and you kept wanting to like move things around and build things and think about your turn. And I could see Sarah just like going, go, 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 go. If it helps, I do that on stream all the time. I spend ages thinking about something and then I go, oh, I should be doing something else. Ah. No, it was really fun, really fun. I hope you enjoyed the stream. It was, it's always nerve-wracking, but it seems like you enjoy it, which is all good. And 2 Andrews in the same stream, eh? That's always fun. Give us some details. We totally won't spread it everywhere. Streams go, yeah, you see, yeah. We no one will say this is a secret space, Carl. We won't say anything. Definitely not. Definitely not. Oh dear. Thank you for sneaking in so many extra clicks for us during the chatty bits. I know. Just like casually gaming whilst we're doing stuff. It was really good. I enjoyed that. I like the UI. The UI change definitely was expanded better. It was very small on the monitors we saw when we played, and it seemed like it had definitely been upscaled well. I could still personally see a little bit more color being flushed into the AI, just a little bit, just a bit of life. Shading, colors, more of a tonal shift, but I mean, I don't mind the sort of overall darker look. It's just like trying to bring it all in. Yeah, we'll see. It's very nice seeing the specific stats. Yeah. We got to see a lot of specific stuff, didn't we? Absolutely. So what did we learn? What did we learn about this? Oh yeah, Greece. Let's have a look and so we can see what Greece has dropped. Where is my tab for that? It's going to be in here, right? Let's find this, because Greece definitely looked like it could be interesting. Here it is. Here is Greece. All right. So Greece, what's Greece got going? The city-states of Hellas were a constellation of powers, each with a rich history. Yeah, this is the thing. Greece is incredibly complicated historically, and there's a bunch of city-states. So who are you going to go for? They are increased influence per turn on the palace. Right, so more trade deals, more denouncements, more independent power transactions. So that's interesting. That'll be very interesting. Attributes, cultural and diplomatic. So we're not going for Spartan. This appears to be more Athensy, I would guess. Definitely more cultural, diplomatic. So we've gone more of the Pericles route than we have the Gorgo route, I would say. Definitely. So, the Odin, the Parthenon, unique building. Okay, so that's a unique building. It's not a wonder. Interesting. Increased influence towards initiating and progressing the befriend independent action. Okay, so Greece is very much geared around befriending independent city-states and fostering those nations. We've also got Tier 2, increased culture per turn for active endeavours, sanctions and projects you started or supported. So you get increased bonuses from diplomatic action. So Greece is literally all about that influence. Get that sweet, sweet influence in. Interesting. Commanders gain increased experience. That's kind of a bit different. Hoplites gain increased combat strength each city-state you're suzerain of. So the more city-states you get, the better your hoplites are. I could see that scaling quite strong. Increased settlement. Limit culture for each city-state you're suzerain of. So really it's encouraging you on multiple levels to become suzerain here, which is interesting. 2 traditions, increased influence towards initiating endeavours and increased influence towards initiating sanctions. So you can either play as evil Greece or friendly Greece, which is interesting. Very interesting. Oh, we got here Acropolis. Unique quarter. So, okay, that's kind of gone from Civ 6. Increased gold on the Parthenon unique building for each city-state you're suzerain of. Again, we're going into suzerainship. Parthenon gains influence if placed on rough terrain. So if you put it on a hill, I guess that's saying you want to put the Parthenon on a hill. That kind of makes sense. Happiness base, culture adjacency for quarters. That seems very much like the Roman one, the Odin. Interesting. Unique scholar unit, the Logios. Can only be built on cities of an Acropolis. So you've got to build that quarter. And the specific Logios is received at random. It can only be received once. Cost increases per build. So, okay, these are more great people. So this is very much like Egypt. Lots of Greek people. Who have we got? Aristotle, Aspasia, Hypatia, Plato, Pythagoras, Sappho, Socrates, Thales, Xenophon. So we've actually confirmed that all of these Greek leaders, every single one of these Greek leaders will not be a leader that you can play in Civilization. So that has been confirmed. That's a weird sort of confirmation. But we're not going to be playing as Plato or Aristotle, some of the Greek people that maybe we thought we might be playing as leaders. Activated on Acropolis to grant influence. Gives culture on the academy, happiness to the library, science to the library. Adds influence to a building. There's quite a few things here that give influence. Gives increased military unit strength on some hoplites. Okay, very random. Mix of culture, influence, and science here. Very random. Hoplite. Has increased strength if adjacent to another hoplite. Again, that's taken directly from Civ 6 there. So hoplite being next to hoplites, very interesting. Oracle adds culture. When gaining rewards from a narrative event, you gain additional culture per age. So the more narrative events you do, the better the Oracle becomes. Pushing you into the story. Right. Must be placed on rough terrain. Starting biases, hill and grassland. So Greece is all about those sweet, sweet foreign powers, those minor powers. I feel like Greece is going to be a very interesting map choice, because if you go on a really small map, you're going to get not much bonus at all. But if you're on a really big map with a lot of different independent powers, you might see quite a big bonus there. Interesting. Very interesting. Jumping in this late. Might take me a while to know what's happening. I could go back and start at the beginning, but will I now? Maybe you will. It's all golden. You should all go and see. This whole stream has just been beautiful. Definitely. Might be... Oh, these Greek names, I'm not going to even try. But yes, we don't know is the answer. We could get Pericles or Gorgo back. So both of those are option. Was Pericles Athenian and Gorgo was Spartan? I know Gorgo was Spartan. I don't know if Pericles was Athenian. Might be wrong on that. Could be wrong on that. Check the dev diary. Yeah, good point. There's a lot of flanking bonuses. I think the hoplites could be incredibly powerful if you play them right. Sounds like they could be. Pericles is Athenian, Gorgo was Spartan. Yeah, I thought so. I don't know much about Greek history, I'll be honest. It's very complicated, but we'll give it a go. Right, let's load up the dev diary, see if we can see anything interesting in this. King Leonidas' wife. I've seen 300. I've seen 300. Right. Let's go to the dev diary. Civ 7. Where do I see the dev diary? Is that on the website or is that on Steam? It might just be on the website, you know. I don't know why I'm looking at it from Steam. It isn't up yet. Is it not up yet? Oh, I thought it would have gone up. Fair play. Alright, I'll just double check. Okay, so Hatshepsut, her entry has gone up now. Okay, right, so we can talk about this a little bit more. So she's now up. So this is the video we just watched at the end. So the early 14th century BC. So she's ancient. Very, very ancient. Adds culture for every imported resource. So basically an imported resource is any resource you're gaining from a trade route. So you make the merchants, you send them out to other cities, and you get culture as well as your resources. So quite a late game thing. But I started importing maybe 10, 12 resources, so that's a decent chunk of culture. Increase production towards the construction of buildings and wonders in cities adjacent to navigable rivers. When I was rolling maps, and I think we saw that in the gameplay, navigable rivers aren't everywhere. They're quite rare features. Your nation probably will have 3 or 4 at the absolute max. So this isn't going to be a huge amount of production, but it will be some. Very Egyptian bonus as we've seen it. Dev Diary isn't up, yeah. Love your videos and everything you do. I just came to your live stream. What do you think about the new information that was given to us with the gameplay reveal? We're talking about it now. That's what we're going. It's good. It's interesting. Lots of cool stuff. Definite improvements to the UI. Very good hints towards the exploration age. Definitely seems like a slightly smaller game in terms of the number of civs and leaders, but we shall see. So she's cultural and economic. Her agenda, decrease relationship by a small amount if you have more wonders than her. Increase relationship by a medium amount if you have less wonders. So she will want to be your friend unless you're doing well. If you're doing well, she'll not like you. Starting biases, navigable rivers, and desert. Interesting. So both the leader and the civ have separate starting bonuses. That's quite interesting. That's quite interesting. Music vision seems great, but I hope there will be multiple themes per civ and per leader. Will it be bummed if there's less music? I think there will be. It sounded like there was a lot of different themes, and it seemed like it changed in tone depending on the style of interaction you had as well. I would also assume it gets different as you go through the game. But Civ 6 didn't have a lot of music, let's be honest. Like, Civ's only had like 1 track, so maybe 3 tracks across the whole game, so yeah. Dev Diary's on website, is it? Are you sure about that? Has it just appeared? Ah, yes, it's here. There we go. Here it is. I've got it. I've got it. Alright. Read time, 13 minutes and 16 seconds. Who comes up with that? That is so specific. Look at that. Hey all, I'm Sarah, your community manager for Civ 7, and I'm super excited to announce we're rolling out a series of developer blogs in the coming months. These blogs are written by developers of the dev team and tailored specifically for Civilization community. Deep diving into the details that make Civ 7 so special, getting into the nitty gritty. First of all, we're going for Ages, written by Ed Beach. Poor Ed, getting stuck with the first one, eh? So here you go, we got actually a little bit of art that I haven't seen before. There's Exploration Age and Modern Age. You can definitely see planes, tanks, and ships. This sort of thing is Modern Age. It's going to be very much themed around the World Wars, I think. Very much. Exploration Age. It's interesting that it's exactly what we thought it would be, which is the Age of Sail. That's going to be, I think, the thing that we are focusing on. Hey Civ fans, my name is Ed Beach, creative director. I'm excited to kick off our series of developer blogs on a topic I know the community has been discussing in great deal, Ages. He wants to tell us about it. So we've talked about before, Ages represents significant gameplay evolution for Civ. Well, that's true. It's definitely been a big talking point. Fundamentally, Ages divides a single game of Civilization into distinct playable chapters. Every age is designed to capture the essence of a specific period of human advancement achieved by filling the age with historically relevant elements. It's worth pointing out in a lot of this stuff, because a lot of people I've seen in chat are talking about the discussion between Civ being super historical, or not historical, or accurate, lore accurate, history accurate, all that sort of stuff. And whether or not they're trying to be too historically accurate or not. I think the way to think about it is like this, and I think they've been fairly clear in what they've saying. Civ 6 or Civ 7 is not supposed to be a historical simulator. It is not supposed to be an exact timeline of history as it happened. Every choice is not supposed to be exactly like it did happen in real life. What it's supposed to be is historically correct in small portions. So elements of the game in isolation are correct. And they are woven together in a creative and chaotic style that can be played about with as you like. So the 3-age system is not a perfect representation of how human existence went, right? We didn't have 3 ages and that was it. That was very much made for a gameplay choice. Hugely made as a gameplay choice. what is interesting is that they're trying to say that, right, we've made these arbitrary ages. We want to make sure that the stuff in this arbitrary age at least feels correct. So I like the way they've done this. They're not trying to be 100% clinical with how historically relevant it is, or accurate in a grand scale. What they're trying to say is in isolation, there are bits and pieces that work well. I like that. I think that's okay. I don't mind that. As you go from one age to the next, your empire evolves. You select a new civilization that comes equipped with a fresh set of bonuses, units, and buildings. We saw that with the Normans, so that was interesting. This new civilization carries forward key elements of your past, and by the end of the campaign, you've created a unique cultural lineage. So, yeah, we saw that. Roman cards still available to the Normans once they had gone. Yeah, they can move the capital. You can move the capital now. That is cool. Very Phoenician. Okay. The idea that history is built in layers, that has come back multiple times. We didn't actually get to see buildings being built on top of buildings. Interestingly, all of the ancient or antiquity era buildings were still in the city when they got put down, which was interesting. So they haven't vanished. It's definitely you're building over the top. For this particular blog, I want to talk about ages more from a game mechanics and design perspective. Here we go. So he's basically saying right now he's not going to go into the history so much. This is gameplay. This is going to be really interesting. We'll get a good sense of this. When my team of designers and I sat down to brainstorm ideas, we started about taking an honest look at Civ 6. Everyone built a list of stuff they wanted to improve on, and come back with notes. We've always said we're our own harshest critics, but even I was surprised about how critical the designers were. Oh man, you should come and see Reddit sometime. I was so sad. Apparently the chat on the other live stream was really negative. It's like, come on everyone. The game. Chill out a bit. It's okay. Not everything's perfect. We'll still enjoy it. As we look through our feedback, one particular issue came coming up over and over again. Late game Civ is not that fun to play. I mentioned this a few times. Late game is definitely in their crosshairs here. A lot of decisions we're going to see are going to be about late game. Snowballing. This is one of the things they want to stop. Snowballing refers to when you come up with something small, it gathers momentum and it becomes unstoppable. In Civ, this is expressed when your empire advanced too fast for your opponents to catch up, or you've fallen so far behind you can't catch up. In both scenarios, your choices and decisions have little effect on the ultimate outcome. Yeah, that makes sense if you're behind. If you're making it behind, that kind of is like, you can't affect the game because you're just going to be stomped on. That's fair. If you're so far ahead, it doesn't matter what the rest of the world is doing because you just bomb them. We've seen that in games as well, so I can kind of see what they're saying. What I was complaining about was in the stream, they kept saying that a certain feature was or wasn't in a certain age because that's what happened in history when it wasn't true. I think, yeah, this is the thing. I think what they're trying to say is that they have made an arbitrary point of time and they're trying to make it as historically accurate as they can within a very set age. It's not going to be 100% historically accurate. They've mentioned that a few times. I can see why people are nitpicking that thing a little bit, and it does make sense. I can see the argument from both sides. I think what they're trying to say is that they want to make things historically correct in isolation as much as they can, and then in the wider sense, then gameplay takes over. So gameplay absolutely will take over in terms of decision making. It's about making sure the Lego bricks themselves are accurate, even if what you make with them isn't, if that makes sense. But somewhat mixed, but at the end, 95% of people said W, which is ticked. Okay, that's good. It was positive. That's really good. That's really good. It is only game. Yeah, exactly. Everything is fine. Like Navy not being part of Antiquity. Navy is a part of Antiquity. I think people have seized on that. What they were saying is that Navy is one of the core mechanisms that makes exploration an age interesting. Navy was in the Antiquity Age. So I was able to make galleys, I was able to make quadriremes, which, by the way, in Civ 5 and Civ 6 was the only boats you could build as well. So nothing has changed there. They are absolutely still the same. It feels like the game has been set up to be a little bit more restricted so that naval dominance doesn't really make sense until later into the game. But again, Civ 5 and Civ 6, Navy didn't come on board until cartography. You know, until you can go into the ocean tiles, you sink around the coasts on your nations. That already is a thing. So I actually don't think anything has changed at all. They've just been quite clear that change between going from coast to ocean happens in exploration. So I think that's kind of what they were saying. That's the sense I got when I was listening to it anyway. So let's have a look. Lots of micromanagement. In many Civ 4X games, they can be mapped into a simple linear graph. As time increases, the amount of actions you have take increases. This is manageable for the first few hours. What many players feel is the most fun. When you have a few cities, some builders, and a small army. But the more you play, the bigger your empire gets, and suddenly you're making decisions for dozens of cities, moving dozens of units one by one. This is both tedious to the player and makes every decision feel less important. I think we can all agree Civ 6 really did suffer from that. What's the meta in Civ 6? You make 20 to 25 cities. Every single one needs a thing. They all have builders. It gets into a late game nightmare. I can film for a series in the same amount of time as I do turns 1 to 125 as I can turn 200 to 220. So yeah, there's definitely an increase in time linearly. What they're trying to do is make it less like a linear line and make it more like a line that sort of curves down a little bit, so it never gets over a certain point, which I kind of get. Oh, here's Cole to give gospel. Yeah, absolutely. Navy is an antiquity. It's a great way of taking settlements on the coast or navigable rivers. Yeah, and as I say, it's absolutely a thing. Carthage was a naval power, yes, but Carthage also just used ramming ships that stuck to the coast and the Mediterranean. And the Mediterranean was a very specific sort of coastal ocean that was much more navigable. And even they didn't go too far into the middle of the Mediterranean. So, yeah, like I get it. Don't get me wrong. I can see why that sort of like limiting navy to exploration could be something that riles people in a little way. But it does represent the mechanism of what Civ 5 and Civ 6 were like as well. I think there are some exceptions to that. Definitely, for instance, Vikings. Vikings were very, very good at exploring. I mean, Vikings obviously went to Iceland, Greenland, America. So, yeah, no, I think it's interesting. It's interesting. That's why I love the Stack of Doom in Civ 6, which they're bringing back with Commander's Absorbing Army. I know, I really, really like that. I love that ability. That's really, really cool. Just to be about just taking troops from one side to the other. That's really, really, really cool. Civ balancing. Civ designs draw inspiration from historical events and cultures, so their unique abilities, units, and buildings must be both relevant to their identity, whilst also being balanced across a game that spans all of history. Because of this, every Civ is strong at a particular point in the game, but can be generic during other points. What's interesting is that due to snowballing, competitive Civ players rarely pick late game Civs, because by the time those abilities and units come online, someone has built up an insurmountable lead. Yeah, really interesting that. So that is true. Some Civs come online much later, some come online much earlier. They didn't want Civs to be obsolete around different times. Again, makes perfect sense, right? America, with its unique building and units being modern era, with the film studio and the fighter unit, what are your bonuses early game? It's a difficult balance. And if you've got early game abilities, those can cause you to snowball. So we've got a bit of a rebalancing here. These are just a few of the things the team identified, and the ultimate kicker was how they express themselves in a single data point. More than half of Civilization 6 players have ever finished a single campaign. That's incredible. We got given some stats when we spoke to the dev team in Baltimore, and some of the stuff they've picked up is absolutely incredible. No one plays late game. Like, no one. People faff around in the early game all the time. That's what they're trying to stop. They're trying to make all of the game interesting, and I get that. The late game for me is the most exciting bit. I know I'm weird. I am not the typical viewer on this, so I have to be careful about saying things as gospel. But I love late game Civ. That's my favorite. When power comes online, when movement is a thing, when you've got huge overlapping factories and coal power plants and stuff like that. That's my favorite bit of Civ. I really, really like that. So I'm glad that it's going to be given even more attention. Put it that way. From our perspective, not finishing a game is a signal that players are hitting points they are no longer having fun. We want everyone to have a great experience from start to finish. We know that players often feel the beginning hours of Civ are magical. We want to make sure that every part of the game feels just as epic and exciting as the initial rush. So with this issue in mind, along with the insight that history is built in layers, as we previously outlined, we decided the best way to tackle these challenges is to break up the game into historically themed chapters. A useful analogy for thinking about this is the structure of a book series. Each age has a story of its own with a beginning, middle, and end. When the books combine together, they tell the epic story. So yeah, it's exactly. They're saying that the ages is not historical. It's 100% a gameplay decision. Fine. Don't mind that at all. Is this a new piece of art? Oh. Interesting. If I put my cursor over it, it says Mongolian city. Now, we knew Mongol was a thing, but I wonder if any more of these pictures have got any Egyptian city. Age select pleasure. I'm going to have to keep an eye on this and see if anything is revealed. which is interesting. It might surprise you to know that from our play tests and feedback, the actual experience of playing an age in Civ 7 feels very familiar to a traditional age of Civ. As many of our fans know, Sid Meier has a rule of thirds. Yep, we've heard that before. And continuing with the Age tradition, critical for the game to still feel like Civ. It did. It did feel like Civ when I played it. I will give them that. Each age, in some sense, is like playing a tighter, more focused campaign of Civ. Just like before, you'll build your capital, discover the lands around you, find resources, and compete with your fellow Civs. What's different this time around is that every age has a key set of elements that are unique to that age, which include civilizations, resources. So resources do change per age. Civs and techs, buildings and units, independent powers. So they will increase as well and change with game, which is interesting. Game systems and playable map area. Here we go. So we know certain game systems are only available during each age, ensuring every age feels unique and exciting to engage with. Ages determine the overall size and scope of the playable map, expanding as the player transitions into new ages. So there you go. It's written down there in clear black and white. So there you go. Is this Chinese Mongolia? Maybe? I don't know. What would we be able to tell? If we could zoom in, we could potentially see some spotting stuff. Yeah. Age progress determines how far along you are in that age. Every turn contributes a small amount of age progress while completing things like milestones. Will contribute larger amounts. Generally speaking, you can expect an age to last about 150 to 200 turns on standard speed, or roughly 3 to 4 hours of play. Yeah, this feels about right. This feels about right. I was going to end the age about turn 140, 150. Our gameplay session was 4 hours, and I was distracted quite heavily, and I almost got to the end of it. So that's about right. That's about right. What are you saying? I've many never finished games. Yeah, exactly. Oh, you don't rely on understand how to use planes. Nicola, you're missing out. Planes are the best bet. They're the best bet. Looks like you're all still having a conversation about Phoenician history. Love it. Think history's too complicated. If we made a game based on 100% lore accurate history, it would make no sense because every Civ would play totally differently because it's just chaos. It's just absolute chaos. At the end of the game, AI is always behind, so I run them over. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with AI. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really interesting. Regarding the aforementioned legacy paths, there are a series of objectives for you to complete during an age, categorized as science, military, culture, and economy objectives. Every legacy path contains milestones, providing you with greater rewards as you progress further down the path. You can unlock golden ages. Failing to complete one gives you a dark age. So there you go. It is confirmed there. Very interesting. Very interesting. Ah. All right. So we were saying before about whether or not there was a difference between a leader and a Civ progression. Abbasid has replaced Songhai, but it says Egypt there. Do you see that? Definitely says Egypt. Whereas we thought it was because of the leader. Interesting. Baganda we knew. We knew about Baganda. Modern age Civ, yep. Interesting one, that. But we knew that one. You also get Crisis. Every crisis comes in stages and intensifies over time, making it challenging if you don't adapt. You also have to select which crises policies you want to take on. They are negative. Yes, so I had to build my own crisis. It was quite interesting. There are several reasons why we created a crisis system. We basically want the late game to feel climactic and epic. It's interesting that they went with negative things to make something feel like something you'd want to play. Often systems that penalize a player can make people switch off. So we'll see how that goes. Be interesting. But then it reshapes and rebuilds. So potential paths gone. Age transitions. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so okay, this is absolute proof and confirmation of the Indian, Maurya, Chola, and Mughal. So 3 different versions of India. So there you go. To the people that want to play a same Civ all the way through, there is an overarching options to play certain Civs all the way through. So that is a thing. That's good. Well, Egypt goes to multiple Civs like Rome does. I think it's just a simplified graphic. Yeah, it's quite nerdy. The thing is that on the live stream, they mentioned that Abbasid was the leader choice. And I know we've seen specific graphs that mentioned that the Civ choice was Songhai. So we kind of jumped ahead and we assumed that maybe there'd be a leader and a Civ choice separately. But it's the fact that this now says Egypt crosses over what they said in the stream and changes it. So I wonder if you're right, this is just simplified and they've changed Songhai to being Abbasid. I don't know. Or maybe this is just more information. It's interesting. We'll see how that plays out. As the age changes, all players experience the transition simultaneously. 3 things happen. You select a new civilization, you select which legacies you want to retain, and then the game world evolves. New crisis, new Civ game launch, minus 100% happiness for each subreddit in your Civ. Yeah, absolutely. So, when selecting a new civilization, we won't be able to choose any new Civ at random. There are 3 factors that determine your options. Oh, here we go. There is a historical or geographical connection with the past Civ and future one. So you'll have a choice rooted in history. So, for instance, Antiquity Egypt to Exploration Abbasid. Second, certain leaders will automatically unlock certain Civs due to their particularly strong identities. Choosing Himiko, for instance, will always mean you can pick Meiji Japan in the modern age. And here we go. There is the potential Roman path with Napoleon or Augustus. So Rome, Norman, French. So that is in its own way interesting. Not Byzantine, though. Not Byzantine. Finally, gameplay actions that you can take unlock non-historical paths. Well, this is something we know the Civ community has discussed at length. We definitely enjoyed your reactions and memes. Hey, they like my Ben Franklin one. I know the Ben Franklin one. There you go. The idea of Egypt turning into Mongolia. With that said, we want to include this option for many reasons. Firstly, we think it's fun and it reflects Civ's what if. Second, we want to provide players with the possibility of making dramatic strategy changes, especially if they aren't focused on playing historically. Finally, we think it reflects some core ideas behind history's built-in layers. The notion that our history is one of many possible paths and civilizations ultimately shaped and determined by the people. Byzantine might be Greek. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Might be. Meiji Japan is always modern age. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got that right. After selecting the civilization, you then pick and choose the legacies you want. For instance, obtaining milestones give you certain things. So the better you play, the more stuff you'll have. That's good. Legacies come in a variety of different costs and bonuses. Some only cost 1 point and can be grabbed over and over and over. We saw that with leader points. You can just make tons and tons of leader points. Others are more expensive and may have prerequisites. One legacy I like in particular is Change Capital. It's free and strategically useful for moving your inland capital to one of your settlements on the coast. as you prepare to take on the challenges and strategic opportunities of a new age. So there you go. That's the first big hint that moving to the coast for Exploration Age is definitely something you want to think about. So, that's interesting. Once you select your new Civ and Legacies and the new age begins, your game world undergoes a series of changes across the board. All civilizations begin anew. New resources fill the map and the world expands. You'll be able to research shipbuilding to cross great oceans and reach distant lands, which it turns out are already occupied with other undiscovered civilizations who may not welcome your presence. So that's cool. You'll be able to overbuild, construct new buildings on top of your old ones, which have reduced yields as they are less powerful in the new age. So there you go. The old buildings are naff. They have less powerful abilities, so they're not as useful. New legacy paths appear. Religion, which plays a minor role in the Antiquity Age, becomes an essential driver of action during the Exploration Age. So there we go. It's a gameplay decision. They're bringing in religion in the Exploration Age. So there you go. That's 100% confirmed. Brilliantly confirmed. With a new civilization in hand and so much of the world changing, it naturally raises the question, how do you maintain a cohesive sense of identity? They have thought about this long. Leaders remain the same across ages. Interesting that they want to do it that way around, but at least you have a consistent element, so I kind of get that. It's fine. You can argue this one till the cows come home. Ultimately, they wanted some consistency. They want the leader rather than Civ. I quite like that. I can see that. I like it. The strategic choices for Civ are so cool. Also, I love that I'll have 3 times the unique choices over the course of the whole game. Yeah, and each one of those has a bunch more choices in them, so it's really complicated. That's a big change. Movable capital was only to Dido in Civ 6. Harks back to previous Civ editions where you could go build a new palace wherever you wanted and it moved the capital that way. Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? Really interesting. Traditions are always available. So once you get a tradition, they can be used in any age. So some leaders have better abilities for using old traditions. So there you go. Your Roman abilities will always be useful through the game. Ageless buildings, some are so essential they cannot be replaced. Any wonders you've built will always remain on the map, as well as unique quarters. So some stuff remains. I think it had an ageless tag on it. Commanders are particularly powerful and impactful units, gaining levels as they survey the battlefield. Your investments in these units will pay off in the long run as commander attributes will experience. Yeah, so they stick from age to age. So we knew that. They mentioned that on stream. Norman City with Colosseum. Age transitions represent moments of possibility. If you find yourself falling too far behind, it'll offer you a way to get back into the game. You can double down on a preferred playstyle or pivot to something completely different if you find that you're outmatched. Now this for multiplayer will be really interesting. We'll see how this transition works for multiplayer, but could you imagine if Antiquity, you get a bunch of people all going for the same win condition. You get like 4 science players, and then in the next stage you pivot into culture because you're like, this is too competitive. I'm going to switch and do something totally different. That could be really interesting. Snowballing into an unstoppable juggernaut is no longer as obvious an outcome, but we want to make sure you're still rewarded for playing through with abundance of legacy points. So you still get rewards for playing well, but it's not just like future. With Ages, we wanted to set a system that solves some of the long-standing issues we wanted to tackle, but it always presents you with something new. Something that offers a fresh take on Civ to make the game more dynamic, inviting, and exciting. With Ages, we're able to reach new levels when it comes to historical immersion. We tailor the content specifically to that age, and you compete with fellow empires at the height of their powers. We can provide a deeper and richer experience where your unique units and abilities are more immediately available and just relevant. Which is good. So there's some news information there. Interesting information. Hello Tasmania, Australia's waking up, is it? Haha, we've waited long enough. Welcome, welcome. Hope you can watch back and see all of these different changes. They're very cool. Can you give me a quick rundown of the combat changes? I haven't looked into it too much. Basically, there are commanders, which are the improved great generals. They level up, they get experience, they have promotions, they have a zone of control. Promotions apply to all the people around it. They can scoop units up, they can spit them out. Units no longer have experience. It's complicated a topic, but it's all about commanders now. They're the big thing, which is interesting. That was exactly 13 minutes and 24 seconds. Was it actually? No, it wasn't. And yeah, the reaction, there's been a lot of negative reaction. I think if there's one thing that as like a content creator and a person that I can encourage you to spread on the internet as you go out, both in your own actions, but also when you see other people, it is perfectly acceptable to not like something, have a negative reaction to something, or to just disagree with something. But be very careful in how you jump to crazy negatives. A lot of people will brandish the word hate, or I don't like, or it's using swear words, or like, it can be incredibly negative. Hate is a very powerful emotion, and people jump to it very quickly. Try to be constructive and well-rounded in criticism. Try to include positives with your negatives. Try to be balanced in how you view things. Try not to jump immediately on using words like hate. Because most of the time, hate is a very powerful emotion. It's incredibly negative and it's incredibly destructive. And the internet has a lot of that. There's a lot of that around, especially when you read a lot of forums. And it can be quite disheartening for a lot of people to see. And a lot of people don't get involved in communities online because they read that sort of thing. And it kind of, if you like a bit of an argument and you like a bit of a fight, it can feel really cool at the time. People who like to debate, a lot of people like myself, we get really turned off by that sort of commentary. It's okay to not get, react to something well. You can not like something, you can debate against it. That's fine. Just be careful in language. Be constructive. Be positive. Be the force for good you want to see in the world. That's what I would say. Anyway, that's my little chat to end with you. That was a lot of fun. There's a lot of new information. I will be probably leaving the stream here. I'm going to go away, have some dinner, think about everything I've seen in Civ. It was a lot of fun. I hope you all enjoyed tonight. Saw a lot of interesting information. A lot of interesting stuff. I'm really excited to see what the exploration era has to offer. So it's a pleasure having you all around once again. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you saw a lot of stuff you liked. I hope the stuff that you didn't like gives you stuff to think about, to talk about. And I think the devs are listening. I honestly think the devs are doing a lot of listening. So we shall see. Anyway, it was a pleasure. I've been Ryan. I'm going to grab some food. See you next time.